Okay. How's everyone doing today? It's quite a lot to cover. The Ontario election is happening today, so we'll probably end up starting off with that. Um, we'll talk about some of the updates around the Uvalde incident, as well as some of the stuff that's been happening, like Bill C-7, as well as uh, new possible legislation that could come to firearms as well. I think it's mostly like handguns and stuff. And then there was some stuff that Trudeau had did earlier today. I think it was where he went down to like a reserve out by like Calgary or something. So we'll end up talking about that as well. So hopefully there's nothing really too much going on outside of that. Yep. I'm just gonna blast this off on Twitter real quick. All right. Let's see here. I think we're good now. So yeah, we can start off with the Ontario stuff. So we'll start off with how Ontario plans on fighting, like the Ontario parties, how they are planning on fighting affordability, right? Or actually, let's just start off with
we have developed a reasonable path to balance.
His polling plummeted as Doug Ford faced a dissatisfied public.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Ontario has confirmed its second presumptive case.
But then the premier was presented with a significant challenge, one that no other premiers faced in 100 years.
We will not lose this battle. We will get ahead of this.
Bro, I honestly think he's going to lose.
Second chance, and he rose to the occasion.
So, well, we'll get back to this while we wait. Honestly, I have no idea who's gonna win. I honestly think that Del Duca actually has a chance of defeating Doug Ford. So we'll see if I'm right about that. I hope that the NDP actually wins, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess. So in the meantime, we can start off with this.
Here in Ontario, the election campaign is in its final hours, and affordability is front and center in this campaign. The Bank of Canada hiked interest rates today, now at 1.5%, their basis rate. As inflation rises and the cost of living soars, which party has the best plan to help Ontarians through the tough economic times? Prabhat Sarkaria is an Ontario progressive Conservative candidate. He's in Toronto. In Brampton, Guratan Singh is running for the NDP. John Fraser is under the Liberal banner. He's with us from Ottawa. And over in Huntsville, Ontario Green candidate Matt Richter. Hi, everybody. I appreciate you making the time for this tonight. I know that it's a busy time for you, so just a quick warning. There's 4 of you. We're hoping to get everyone in a few times, so just try and keep that in mind. I know everyone wants some time to get their points across, but hopefully we can have a good discussion tonight. I wanted to start with you, Mr. Sarkaria, and I want to ask you about the moves that your government has made in...
Okay, so real quick, we got Jennifer French, who is an NDP representative, telling everyone to go vote.
Hi folks, it's Jennifer French here in Oshawa, and today is election day, so make sure that you make your plan, that you know where to vote and what time you're planning to go. Get out and vote, and let's keep Oshawa orange.
So yeah,
Hi.
if you live in Ontario, make sure to go vote. Hopefully it's for something for your NDP representatives, because like the fucking Liberals suck, the Conservatives suck. The Greens aren't too bad, but honestly, I think the NDP is your best option.
Temporarily cutting the gas tax by 5.7 cents a litre, the fuel tax by 5.3 cents a litre for 6 months. Are you going to extend that, A, given what we're hearing from the Bank of Canada about inflation and that it's not even hit its peak yet? And B, if you do extend it, because the first cuts already cost provincial coffers $645 million, is it fiscally prudent to do that?
Well, thank you very much for having us on here. You know, since we've been elected, the government's focus has always been, how do we put more money into your pocket? That's where we made that first commitment to lower the gas tax by about 10 cents, and we are going ahead with lowering that gas tax. You know, that's why we put $125 per vehicle back into the hands of the people that earned that money in the first place, and it's why we are to lower taxes for those earning under $50,000. So the government has a because we recognize that you know, fuel costs have.
Jeez, he has worse audio than fucking leftists.
Listen to the concerns of everyday Canadians as and current discussion at the door of the high price costs. But you know, there are unfortunately both the NDP and Liberal parties want to increase the cost of gas on families. So we've always been against that. We've always put more money to the people, and we'll continue to listen to the residents. We have been, and ensure that you know, as a government since day one, putting more money back into your pockets has been something that we've been committed to.
Peter Julian is letting people know to vote.
Okay, I just really want to follow up, because unfortunately some of what you said there, the audio was cutting in and out. It's the connection, I think, the
vote
internet
for the
connection.
NDP.
So I couldn't hear the full extent of your answer. I just want to be clear.
Because honestly, they're your best chance. Justin Kong,
sort of prudence of a move like this. I
think should
understand the
be
desire to
good.
put money back in Ontarians' pockets, but it is costing more than $600 million to do that. Your government has spent a whole lot more than maybe
so yeah,
Ontarians
this could be one of the most consequential elections in Ontario, because literally if it's anyone else but Doug Ford, things could actually get a little bit better, whether it's even like fucking Del Duca.
That you know, in comparison to 2018 to 2022, we actually have 550,000 more people working today paying taxes than we did then. So we're going to continue to grow our economy, bigger paychecks for people. We've landed significant investments in electric vehicle manufacturing over the past 14 months. So
I guess we'll
continue to grow the economy, but
I guess we'll see what happens.
As a government, we've always been focused on putting more money into your pockets, like when we return license plate fee stickers. And you know, with respect to the gas tax, we'll continue to listen to the concerns of everyday Ontarians. As you know, times have been tough.
I'm not really too familiar with who's the fucking candidates for
committing to lowering that gas tax. And
for anyone, but
to listen to people as we have been since day one.
Honestly,
and, you know,
like, just fucking vote for the NDP.
Back into everyone's pockets.
Okay, I take from that you would consider extending it. Mr. Singh, I want to move on to something your party is pledging to help deal with the affordability issues so many Ontarians are facing, and that's around universal dental care
Del Duca will
and
probably win.
Why would you
He's
duplicate stuff the federal government is already promising to do?
Like 12.5%.
Well, first off, thank you for having us on today.
And,
I guess the idea is this: we've been door knocking and talking to folks. They've described the really
Conservatives are down.
pain a lot of folks are facing right now because of their inability to access dental care. And the reality is, there's so many folks who have issues with their mouth that could have been prevented if they had access to being able to see a dentist. Now, my brother's done amazing work in being able to provide dental care federally, but we in the NDP provincially want to expand that, want to build off of that and make sure that any single individual in our province who needs to get access to dental care has the ability to do so. Because it is so wrong right now that there are folks in my riding in Brampton East, I'll talk about folks who actually go overseas to get their dentist or to get their teeth fixed or to see a dentist because they can't afford it here locally. And it's a story we're hearing too often of people who have severe pain in the mouth continually because of the inability to access a dentist. So we're not talking about replicating, we're talking about expanding, we're talking about growing, because we in the NDP believe that healthcare should include our mouths, our eyes, and our mind. To have a truly universal healthcare system is expanding healthcare, and that's what we in the NDP are fighting for. We get that folks are struggling right now.
We got a
prediction. A lot of folks because they can't afford mental health care or dental care or eye care or more. We in the NDP are fighting to expand healthcare to make sure.
I just have to follow up and challenge you, and just so our viewers know who may not know, your
based off of someone's prediction, Doug Ford will get 80 seats, more than 80 seats. Del Duca will lose his own. Fringe parties on the right get
dental care.
prompt.
I'm not really sure still from your answer how what
Greens
you're
lose
proposing
to Perry.
Is not duplicative. I mean, they didn't get universal pharmacare from the federal Liberals, but they did get universal dental care. There's a 3-year plan that's already been kicked off and allotted for in the last budget.
I don't think any of that happened, though.
Why would you make Ontarians pay extra for
I'd be
something that they're already paying for as a
if
federal
Del Duca
taxpayer?
loses, to be honest.
So we're actually expanding the eligibility for folks who need to access dental care by making sure that anyone who earns, any household that earns under $200,000 can access dental care, as opposed to the federal plan, which is under $90,000. So we're talking about expanding that. We're talking about building upon that work that's been done and making sure that we're going towards a path of truly universal dental care coverage, going down a path of healthcare coverage that includes our whole bodies. That's what we believe in NDP. So we're not duplicating, it's building off, it's expanding, and it's growing, and it's realizing that folks are struggling. Many folks are living in pain. It's burdening our healthcare system because pain that could have been prevented by seeing a dentist regularly is being exacerbated, and folks need to now go to the emergency room. We're expanding this program and including more folks under it.
Okay, Mr. Fraser, I want to move on to an aspect of your platform that addresses affordability that I know a lot of Ontarians are talking about. That's around housing. You make a number of proposals where housing is concerned, but I want to ask about one specific area. That's around exclusionary zoning. Sounds complicated, but it's essentially what kind of blocks things like multifamily triplexes and fourplexes, low-rise walk-ups from being built. All your party will say at this point is that it will work with municipalities on that issue to break that barrier down. But if you can't commit to getting rid of it, how sound are your policies on actually, like, how much more affordable are you actually making housing for Ontarians?
Well, look, there's no question that we have to intensify
that's great.
but we have to do it in a way that we can work with municipalities and communities to make sure that what we're doing fits and that it's right. And so it's not for the provincial government to dictate to municipalities and to communities what they're going to do. It's to work with them to get them to come along to make sure that we can increase the density in our neighborhoods, make use of our infrastructure, reduce carbon emissions. That's what that policy is all about. You know, we're going to return to real rent control that Doug Ford took away. I think that's an important part of our affordability plan for housing. And then build 138,000 deeply affordable homes. I mean, those are the things I think that people are looking for. When it comes to housing, there's no one solution to that. There's no easy solution to that, but it's something that we need to get done. And if you take a look at the other things in our platform that, with regards to affordability, you know, taking the provincial portion of the HST off prepared meals under $20, Bucket Ride Transit, adding to the OAS gains, $1,000 a year. You know, those are the things I think they're going to make life more affordable. You know, Doug Ford, this is the second time he's promised a cut to the gas tax. He did it at the time of the last election, and he's not doing it till after this election if he gets elected.
Okay, and you know, those questions are for the Progressive Conservatives. Mine was about exclusionary zoning, and I take your point about not wanting to be, you know, dictators to the municipalities. But the fact is, according to the province's own task force report, municipalities are playing outsized roles as an impediment to the development of the kind of housing that would be more affordable, that would drive down overall prices. Your party will not go so far as, for example, the Green Party would, to make sure that that
writing
exclusionary zoning
this
is
election.
less of a barrier. You know, the report lays it out. It does play an outsized role. Why not? Are you sort of, you know, politically calculating that going against municipalities wouldn't be a good idea?
No, I just think the right way to do things when it comes to where people live is to talk to the people who live there about how how their neighborhoods are going to change.
Actually,
And I think it's important
maybe.
that the development, I think most people do development occurs within your neighborhood, fits inside the neighborhood, that it works, that the neighborhoods understand why you're doing that. And if you just dictate from downtown Toronto, which I know this government's used to doing, I don't think that's going to work out well. I don't think it's going to work out well for communities, and I don't think it's going to be very well received, not by municipalities, but by people who live in community.
Okay,
Yeah,
I mean, they're the ones
got?
hoping for more affordable housing, but I take your point. Mr. Richter, I want to move on to you because your party plans, you know, we talk about rebates right now. Your party plans to cancel the planned gas tax reduction and bring back license plate renewal fees. Given what we heard from
Candidates
the Bank of Canada,
North Brampton,
costs are going to keep going up for a while. In fact, they don't even expect inflation to go back to normal rates till the end of next year.
Sandeep Singh.
You know, do you really think something like taking away some money that has helped people, that could help people, is a sound decision, is one that's going to resonate with Ontarians who are really worried about the affordability of things?
Great question, Vashi. And you know, people in Parry Sound, Muskoka, and across Ontario were actually asking themselves the question, did that rebate go to the right people?
Oh, it's just...
And when we look at those rebates going to people
just
who already have, in many cases, so much wealth, and yet that rebate was missing our vulnerable. I've heard from people throughout our communities that the elderly who don't even own a vehicle, or those in marginalized and vulnerable situations, like a young lady between here and Parry Sound.
Oh my God, yeah, the new blues are not going to get any
who just escaped an abusive relationship, has 3 young children, living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
It's gonna be great.
So what happened here with that rebate was it left out the very people who needed assistance, and yet we have other people who are receiving retroactively an amount of money that they felt ashamed about. And these are the heartfelt stories that are being shared. And coming out of the pandemic, I hear it time and time again that people are looking for a more caring way to move forward, and that involves looking out for one another and ensuring that, you know, it's time to really look out for the people who actually need those kind of rebates or just need that extra.
It doesn't really say. I don't really think they're going to be too important, to be honest.
Can't you do both? Can't you walk and chew gum at the same time? Can't you assist those who are most vulnerable and also assist those who are finding life less affordable?
Well, absolutely.
Well, he's probably a homeowner, so he doesn't give a shit.
2 targets that people want to hit. We want to look out for people who need the assistance, and those who already have the means. They want to see money being invested in the very infrastructure that, you know, that money could have been going to. I know so many people that say, you know, that rebate's not going to do much, when that could have been going into the roads. Like up here in Muskoka and Parry Sound, potholes cause a lot of damage on a vehicle, and people going through a bearing job or struts or shocks, like that is a significant dent on the pocketbook. And if we can make sure that we look after the roads we already have, then we're going to make life for everyone that much more manageable and affordable.
All right, I have to leave it there. I do want to thank all 4 of you for participating in the discussion tonight. I know this issue is a really important one to Ontarians watching, and I wish all of you and your parties the best in the election, of course, which occurs tomorrow, voting tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Thanks very much to Prabmeet Sakaria, Gratan Singh, John Fraser, and Matt Richter. Hi, I'm Vashi Capello.
Okay, so it doesn't really sound like any of them have too big of a plan yet, so in the meantime we can do this. So it looks like Toronto might keep him in, but I'm not too sure about like the other places. But this
like 4 years ago, after the Tories swept to power, you can see mostly blue.
I honestly don't think that Ford will stay elected. I honestly think he'll be unelected.
Lots of orange mixed in. We'll be here at the big board all night long, keeping an eye on some of the key races to see if any of those colors will change. Let's start in New York Southwestern, where the PCs are running a star candidate.
These are
Michael
your
Ford,
candidates.
the nephew of party leader
Make
Doug
sure you
Ford, will
vote.
be trying to steal this seat away from the NDP, and pollsters believe he has a pretty good shot at doing it. The Conservatives had never held this riding before. Michael Ford has served as both a city councillor and a school board trustee over the past 8 years. And another riding, Toronto riding, currently held by the NDP, is also in danger tonight, with the incumbent MPP not running again. The Liberals have tapped former city councillor Mary Margaret McMahon to go up against Kate Dupuis of the New Democrats.
It's actually going to be a close battle.
And there's a three-way race happening in Humber River, Black Creek, where Tom Rakocevic will be trying to hold on to his job. It's believed that both Paul Nguyen of the PCs and Ida Lapredi of the Liberals also have a chance at winning this one. Now to the Battle of the Lakeshore, which will go a long way in deciding tonight's election and also who forms the official opposition. We begin in Etobicoke Lakeshore. Christine Hogarth managed to steal this riding away from the Liberals last time around. Lee Fairclough, a former hospital executive, will be trying to snatch it back for the Grits. And just to the west, we find Mississauga Lakeshore. It's a riding that was held by the Liberals for nearly a dozen years under Rudy Cusetto, until Rudy Cusetto turned it blue in 2018. This one could be a toss-up tonight between those two parties. This is one of just several seats in Mississauga
I think he might
Brampton that are
keep
considered to be in
his seat, to be honest.
And next door is Oakville, an area that was also a Liberal stronghold until 4 years ago. Stephen Crawford ended that reign of dominance for the PCs, but he's in a tough position against Alison Goel of the Liberals. A similar
Honestly, it might become Liberal again, to be honest.
Neighboring Burlington.
I'd be surprised if it doesn't.
And of course, we'll be keeping a close eye on the cottage country riding of Parry Sound, Muskoka. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner has spent plenty of time door-knocking with Matt Richter, who has an outside shot at becoming the second Green MPP to be elected. The riding is currently held by the PCs, but the incumbent will not be on the ballot tonight. He's been replaced by Graydon Smith, who is the mayor of Bracebridge. The Liberals aren't running a candidate here, so this will be a two-horse race.
Yeah, I honestly think that... I honestly think it could go, like, to anyone. Still got nothing. The polls are closing in, like, half an hour, so... We can... I guess we can talk about the gun control laws.
This is the scene right now in Houston, Texas. Gun control activists are protesting outside that NRA meeting. Katie Simpson is there as well. Katie, maybe you can just walk us through what you're seeing there.
We're standing right across the street from the convention center where that NRA conference is taking place. And we have a large protest that is set up here, signs, class of 2025, I want to feel safe at school. Just some of the signs, the sentiment here. We've got one over here that says, stop the violence, gun control now. And then right over here, tell the 21 families he had a right to buy that gun. That is the sentiment in this crowd. We have people screaming across the street at people who are attending the NRA conference. You can see it's right there. There is a lineup of people there who are NRA attendees, and you can tell they are because they're wearing their accreditation badges. And they've come out here to see the crowd. And some on this side of the street, some of the protesters are screaming across the street, accusing those NRA attendees of taunting them, smiling and laughing as they're coming out here and protesting against the violence that has taken place, protesting against the availability of guns in this country. One other thing that I want to point out, Hannah, is the security. Remember, former President Donald Trump is expected to be here, so there is intense security.
The craziest part about that is, like, the fucking Republicans will be like, oh, you know, they're so fucking, like, pro-gun and everything, but yet it's kind of weird how, like, at the fucking the NRA conference and shit, they didn't allow people to bring in guns. Like, if you truly think that you're gonna be fucking safe with more guns, why not have everyone bring in fucking guns, regardless of political ideology, then, right? Like, it's so fucking stupid.
And one thing that I should point out, that this is a convention where people buy guns, sell guns, and look at the latest gadgets when it comes to weapons in America. But for the portion of the events when the former president is taking part in his event, guns are actually banned from the hallway. That's a secret service rule, that when a former president is taking place in a public event, that for security reasons, people are not allowed to have guns in that room.
And Katie, for people who are attending the NRA meeting, what are they telling you?
Well, before we came over onto this side of the street to talk to protesters, we did talk to some people who are going inside for today's conference, and we asked them, you know, is there going to be, would gun control laws, would any sort of new laws that would make it harder to purchase guns in America, would that in any way, shape, or form have made things different in Uvalde?
Yes, it actually could have. Because if they had, say, like, red flag laws, for example, that wouldn't... he would have easily been fucking red flagged. Like, they could, and, like, not purchased a firearm, let alone, like, I don't think that he should have a fucking access to a firearm regardless. But yes, it could have 100% possibly stopped that. But there are other things to do as well.
Would that have led to the prevention? And every person we spoke with said no. They said if this person had intent to cause carnage, if this person wanted to cause harm, they were going to cause harm. They said he would get a baseball bat. They said he would get a car and do it. But when I pointed out to them, well, you know, a baseball bat doesn't kill like a semi-automatic weapon, there was another excuse, another reason why that guns are not the problem here. It's people that are the problem.
Katie, I wonder, just before I let you go...
she is right about that. Like, they're always going to find, like, some other fucking excuse. But when it comes to, like, say, like, they'll use, like, mental health as an example, right? It's kind of ironic, though, how, like, every other comparable OECD nation has gun control or has mental health problems, like, roughly around the same amount, with, like, the same fucking resources allocated to mental health, which is ridiculous. They should have they should fucking have access to it either way. But they'll always be like, well, we have a fucking right to freedom and shit, right? And then when it comes to when it comes to the mental health, like, they need to not only just allocate funds to it, right? But they also need to tackle a lot of the systemic problems that they face, a lot of the fucking institutional violence in the force of, in the vein of, like, say, poverty. There is so much more that they could be doing in that regard.
If I can't tell what they're saying in the background, I think shame on you, but give us a sense of what those signs say.
Well, Hannah, as I pointed out, some of the signs say things like "Stop the violence, gun control now." We've got another sign here that says "Their blood is on your hands." A lot of young people are in this crowd today, and of course that has an impact because this tragedy, of course, affected kids who are going to school. And one of the signs that really stands out, I showed it to you earlier, but I'll show it to you again, Hannah, is "Class of 2025. I want to feel safe at school." We're live on TV in Canada. Could I ask you a quick question? What's your name?
Rebecca Salazar. I'm 15 years old.
Tell me why you're here today.
I'm here today to protest against gun violence. I'm sick and tired of seeing the violence. It's not fair that we have to, endure this. We say enough is enough, but it's still happening. When is it going to stop? When will it actually be enough?
What do you think about this happening 5 hours down the road from Uvalde a few days after the mass shooting?
Well, I think it shows that this country is sick and tired. We're sick and tired of...
Well, and, like, how many more fucking kids have to die, right? Like, it's so stupid. Like, just fucking... Like, no one should have to fucking worry about that, right? Especially, like, fucking kids.
I've seen blood, especially, you know, the children of our future.
We're a Canadian newscast. Can you describe for us, you're 15, can you tell us what it's like to go to school in America? How do you feel?
You know, I think, well, I like to feel safe most of the days, but in the back of my mind, there is this fear that, you know,
New Blues trying to pop off. Oh, that's funny.
that day. I mean, it's sad, but we're like the only country on this planet that has to deal with this.
Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it. So that, to give you a sense of the anger here in this crowd, to give you a sense of what people here in Houston, Texas are feeling, where just across the street, people that we talked to were excited about this weekend's convention. They talked about how they're looking forward to seeing the new toys, as one person put it to me, that they want to see. And the main argument we heard from people that we talked to going in there, it's not guns that cause the problem, it's people that cause the problem.
Okay, Katie, thanks for your great reporting, and getting that guest there really gives us a sense of what's happening on the scene. Katie Simpson in Houston, Texas. Thank you kindly.
Okay. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. Oh, I don't how long do we have left before 21 minutes? See here. Let's watch fucking Trudeau and Bergen debate over proposed new firearm control bill after the massacre that happened in Uvalde.
We saw Liberals engage in a game of smoke and mirrors. On one hand, they're banning handguns. On the other hand, they're pushing through Bill C-5, which tells criminals, don't worry. If you're convicted of a gun crime, you just hang out at home for your sentence. This is not keeping communities safe.
Wait, what? How brain broken is Candace Bergen? And like, how the fuck does my area keep electing her? Like, Jesus Christ.
And it is not reassuring to moms and dads who are worried about their kids. So, will the Prime Minister get serious about keeping vulnerable communities safe, scrap Bill C-5, and legislate tough penalties for gun criminals?
Honorable Prime Minister.
Bitch, you don't care about that.
It's absolutely true that we move forward to present legislation that once passed will make it no longer legal to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, Bill C-5, the legislature does not stop police from charging people with gun offenses or prosecutors from pursuing convictions. What it does do is make sure criminals face serious penalties while addressing the overrepresentation of Black Canadians and Indigenous peoples in the criminal justice system.
Of the opposition. And I know all of us want our kids safe in their schools and in their communities. That's why I'm so
sorry, that's just really funny.
What these liberals are doing. They're banning guns, and then when the criminals ignore their gun ban and use the guns to rob someone or commit a carjacking, the liberals are letting these gun criminals do their time at home.
Honestly, what the fucking liberals need to do is they need to fucking do better regulation and shit when it comes to the fucking border and unmarked guns. Like, granted, like, it's still very fucking low, but yeah, she is so like brain broken. It's kind of impressive.
How can the Prime Minister claim to be keeping people safe when he refuses to have jail time for violent criminals who ignore his useless gun bans and are hurting and terrorizing our children?
Okay, here's the thing though. Like, a criminal, like, there are a lot of other factors when it comes to violence, okay? Which obviously she doesn't understand. The biggest thing when it comes to that is poverty and the lack of accessibility to services, whether that be housing, whether it be food, services, even like mental health services. It doesn't matter because, like, there's like, if their socioeconomic conditions aren't fucking met, they're going to find some way to, you know, support themselves. It doesn't matter. We've known about this since fucking ancient Greece. For those who are not aware, this is Bill C-5, the Act to Amend Criminal Code and Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. Criminal codes, among other things, repeal mandatory minimum penalties, allows greater additional sentence to established diversion measures, simple drugs. So, like, it's kind of weird though how, like, the fucking conservatives are only focusing on the fucking, like, gun aspect of it, right? Which, honestly, I would be surprised if, like, they talk about, like, guns too terribly much in here. I mean, let's go through it together, right? Because we still got, what, we got another 16 minutes. Why not? So, oh, this is Bill C-11. This is Bill C-5. Subsequent offenses, committed a secondary, punishment. Oh my god, this is gonna be so fucking boring. Let's see here. We'll get to Bill C-11 after. It's kind of crazy. Like, for the most part, I don't really think Bill C-11 will provide or will change too much, even if it does get fucking passed. Like, it's like all that it is, like, Bill C-11 is like fucking regulation on fucking internet providers and shit like that. So say, like, it's more or less like the fucking same shit as Europe has going on. Okay, every person who commits offense under subsection 1 or 2 is guilty of indictable and liable to imprisonment for more than 14 years. Where are these subsections? That's only the first reading. This is the second reading here. So, essentially, from what I understand, yeah, here's actually, like, proposed changes. MPPs would be able to repeal, would be repealed for 14 different offenses for the criminal code. All 6 MPPs of the CDSA will be repealed. What will remain? MMPs would retain retained a number of offenses, including murder, high high tension sexual offenses, including child sexual offenses. I sure fucking hope so. Impaired driving offenses, some firearm offenses, including firearm offenses connected to criminal organizations. So not only would that like mean like gangs and shit, obviously, right? But it also would could also possibly mean like fucking right-wing shit as well. And the only reason why fucking Candace Bergen is getting all hissy about it is because she knows that the fucking right-wing votes for her. Why make these changes to MMPS? Sentencing laws have been forced on punishment through imprisonment and disproportionately affected Indigenous peoples as well as Black Canadians and members of marginalized communities. MMPs have also resulted in longer and more complex trails, including an increase in the charter challenges and guilty pleas, with which has compared the impact of victims who are more than often required to testify and fail to detain their crimes. So like, what she's complaining about is this here, right? The fucking firearm offenses that still remains under fucking Bill C-5, right? Like, to be fair, yes, Indigenous peoples as well as Black Canadians and marginalized peoples in Canada are fucking affected by this disproportionately, because we have a fucking racist system in place. So the criminal code, right? The reforms to the MMPs would only apply to certain offenses and would not limit the ability to judge impose a sentence of imprisonment, particularly where doing so is necessary to protect the safety of the public. Address the over-incarceration rate of Indigenous peoples, as well as Black marginalized Canadians. MMPs for the following offenses will be repealed: use of firearms, using a firearm, or possession of a firearm or weapon knowing that the possession is unauthorized. Possession of prohibited or restricted firearms with ammunition. Possession of a weapon obtained by commission of offense. Weapon tracking, excluding firearms and ammunition. So, like, say crossbows, for example. Possession of a weapon, trafficking, excluding firearms. Again, like crossbows and other shit like that. Importing or exporting, knowing to it's unauthorized. That happens a lot here in Canada. Just discharging firearm with intent, discharging firearm with recklessness, robbery with firearm, extortion with firearm, selling, etc. of tobacco products or raw leaf tobacco. I mean, I'm honestly not surprised. Weapon trafficking. So yeah, she's just fucking crying for the sake of crying, and it's ridiculous. Where the hell is it?
Right, Honorable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our criminal justice reform legislation turns the page on failed conservative policies that ignored systemic racism and discrimination. What our communities need is a justice system that punishes criminals. What we don't need is a system that targets racialized people because of systemic discrimination or or sends people to prison because they struggle with addiction. This bill is another step forward to create a system that is fair, effective, and keeps Canadians safe.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is that violent gun crime has only gone up under this Prime Minister. Actually, it's gone up.
Wait, what? But like, okay, but where has it gone up though? It's mostly gone up in fucking conservative states or conservative provinces. So like, it ultimately doesn't fucking matter. It's your fucking constituency that deregulates fucking some gun stuff, and it ultimately fucking, you know, it ultimately fucking doesn't matter because you're gonna fucking bitch and moan about it anyways, because that's all that conservatives do.
Significantly,
and it's really fucking annoying.
And the data proves this, Mr. Speaker. He has failed to keep Canadians safe from gun violence in our cities like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and at the same time, he's been weak on violent crime, soft on criminal.
Okay, but the main thing with that though is, regardless of wherever you go, if you have more fucking people, you're going to have more fucking violence. That's just how that works, right? So, like, the best way to be tackling that is through, you know, legislative reforms, as well as tackling the systemic problems that a lot of Canadians face, and very well could be facing in the near future due to the costs of living.
By allowing them to avoid jail time with bills like Bill C-5. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister drop his failed approach, stop putting our communities at risk, and go after dangerous criminals with guns?
Okay, so all of your fucking party then, right? He should be tackling the fucking hogs that end up doing the shit that we saw in February, and, you know, fucking arresting them, right? She'll deny it and be like, no, they're law-abiding citizens.
Over the past 7 years, we've continually moved forward on strengthening gun control in this country.
Like, I fucking hate the fact that I have to defend this loser. Like, it's pathetic.
And that's exactly what we announced yesterday, making it no longer legal as of the passage of that legislation to buy, sell, import, or transfer handguns in Canada. On top of that, the assault weapon ban that we brought in place 2 years ago is going to be matched with a mandatory buyback. These are measures that are going to keep our communities safe, measures the Conservatives vote against because they're against gun control.
Yeah, and like, the thing is like, the Conservatives are only fucking putting on a show because they actually, you know, they actually don't care if like fucking people die, because usually it's their fucking hogs that end up, you know, shooting up like a fucking mosque or whatever.
Honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is misleading Canadians. Bill C-5 and the other measures by this Liberal government are failing to keep our communities safe. They are putting them at risk. If they wanted to stop gun violence, they'd...
But it literally isn't true though. Like, a lot of the gun violence is staying in the reforms of Bill C-5. What's this? Yeah, no, like, all like the gun control shit and everything is staying and everything, but, you know, it ultimately doesn't fucking matter because she's just gonna cry about it. And, you know, it doesn't actually, she's not actually talking about the shit that has happened when it comes to regarding like the actual changes that could be brought up. Like, she's only whining about it because like she thinks that it's going to give like Indigenous people or fucking black people like a slight edge over like her fucking racist voter base, which isn't even fucking true. Like, when it comes to like when it comes to the entirety of our criminal justice system, Indigenous people as well as Black people are most likely going to be thrown in jail when convicted of crime. Sorry, that's just the truth. And like, honestly, I don't give a shit if like someone wants to do like blow. I don't care.
Put more resources to border agents to stop gun smuggling. They put more resources to police to stop violent criminals with guns. They put more resources for anti-gang community groups to divert youth from a life of crime. That's how you stop gun violence, not useless gun bans or bills like Bill C-21 that will do nothing to stop gun violence in this country. Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
Oh, that's right. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Speaker, while Conservative members parrot talking points from the gun lobby, we will continue to act on keeping Canadians safe. That's exactly what we've continued to do over the past many years and what we continue to move forward with on stronger gun control, while at the same time we do invest in communities, while we do invest in more tools for CBSA and RCMP to interdict guns at the border. Indeed, over the past year, we interdicted twice as many guns as we had the year before. Our plan is working, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to keep Canadians safe.
Like, fuck, Conservatives just drive me crazy, man. Alright. We still have a little bit of time. Let's see here. I guess we can watch this now.
His daughters, Krista, Kayla, Kara, and Kyla are with them, as well as we're waiting now just a minute and a half until polls officially close, and then pretty quickly we are expecting we are going to see some results, and we'll see those pop up in real time at the bottom of your screen on our leading and elected boards there.
How do you think, Alan, has he changed since 4 years ago, since we were looking at this kind of visual, similar visual, sitting at this desk 4 years ago? How do you think he's evolved?
I think that's a great question. There's been a lot of ink spilled over that. You know, Doug Ford comes into the Premier's office as a disruptor, as someone who's kind of come in and I'm going to shake things up and change things. Obviously, 4 years later, he can't run as a disruptor when he's already been in power for 4 years. But now he's not an ideologue. I think this is an important thing to understand about Doug Ford. Unlike perhaps Jason Kenney, who you might think is more, a partisan in terms of, ideology and conservative ideology. I don't think Doug Ford has ever been that. And I think the latter half of his tenure has been marked by increased professionalism as well, especially within the Premier's office. He's got a new chief of staff, not that new now, he's been there for a couple of years, but I think that has sort of changed things for Doug Ford.
Yeah, as we have 19 seconds left, I'll try to say this quickly. I think one thing I've noticed is his speaking. I mean, he's given those speeches every day during COVID. He was out there, those were like political ads in a way, because he was always around. So I think that's changed the way he speaks. So there we go. 5 seconds to go until polls have officially closed.
Stay with us. It is 9 o'clock. Polls have officially closed across the province of Ontario, and results will be coming in at any moment.
That's right. Before the results start pouring in, we just want to remind you what you're seeing here on your screen. So first of all, if you are watching us online, you can click on your riding for updated results anytime. And for those of you who are watching us on television or on the app, you can see all the information here.
This is where we're going to show you the live results as they're reported by Elections Ontario. No filter, just right to you on the screen. On the bottom of the screen, you see the overall standings, leading or elected. Now, keep this number in mind, 63. 63 is your magic ticket, because if you get 63 or above in the province of Ontario, that is majority government territory. Along the side, you see the results for each of the 124 ridings in the province. Just stay tuned, watch there, you'll see your riding come up pretty soon.
All right, let's get right to it. We want to go back to our party headquarters. As we mentioned, Matthew Bingley is with the incumbent Progressive Conservatives. Shlima Maharaj is following the NDP.
See who's
and Sean O'Shea
actually going to
is in Vaughan with
get elected.
The Liberals. Matthew, I want to start with you. Polls have just closed. We saw Doug Ford, who was watching with his family, and then he's going to eventually be where you are.
I hope Doug Ford
What's
is
the mood like
unelected.
in the room so far?
Well, some supporters actually coming in here now. For a while, it was quite quiet. Now we're starting to see the room fill up a little bit. There's only about 120 seats for people to actually come and cheer on. Obviously, they are expecting to have cheers, but as we see this sort of holding pattern as we're really waiting for these results to start pouring in now. Obviously, we heard a little bit earlier about some of those polling stations, the issues there and some of the extensions. I was talking with one party insider who told me that they do not expect to have many areas that are going to be affected by that, but we will be checking in on that a little bit later. I'll send it back to you for now.
All right, thank you so much for that, and thanks for getting back to us, because we have our first results in.
Oh, let's go. NDP's up.
NDP seats now. I just want to be so clear, crystal clear on this. These are leading or elected. So just because you see these numbers the way they are now, they might change, they might shift. Don't be alarmed. That's just how things work.
Let's go to David Aiken with a look at some of these
so
very,
the NDP
very
wins,
early
baby.
results, David.
They're early, and what time? Like, that's elections in Ontario, 9:03 or something. Anyways, first result was in Sudbury. That is a riding we expect the NDP to hold, and right now with one poll reporting,
I expect
Jamie
them
West,
to actually,
the incumbent
hold it.
Democrat in Sudbury, has 8 votes, folks, and that's a 2-vote lead over the Liberal David Farrow. So Sudbury, the New Democrats are up. We expect, and the NDP expects, to hold Sudbury. Here's somewhere where
they're most likely going to hold it as well. I'd be surprised if they lost it.
In York Region, in the 905, Richmond Hill is the only other place we have results right now. And look at that. 1 vote for Raymond Bouchan. Daisy Way is the progressive conservative incumbent. No votes for everybody else. 1 poll in. But as we promised, we'd get the first results to you right away, even if it was just 1 vote in Richmond Hill. So that's where we have right now, just 2 boards reporting. As soon as we get more, we'll get them up on the screen right away.
All right, thank you.
Literally anyone outside of Ford would be better.
NDP headquarters, where Shalima Maharaj
I
is
would
spending
literally
the evening along with the NDP.
Hope that
what's the mood there as these results just start to trickle in?
Ontarians get
Well,
like
good evening.
even
we are
fucking
starting
Del
to see
Duca over
some
Ford.
people make their way
Like,
into
Ford
the
is just
convention
fucking
center.
awful.
Right now, I'm actually joined by Party Press Secretary Sam Payne. Thanks so much for being with us, Sam. I have to ask, I mean, obviously, the party captured a lot of momentum during the last election, but now we're hearing a lot about the battle for second place, a possible Liberal resurgence. Do you feel like you've done enough at this state in order to be able to overcome that?
Well, we're
I think
really
Liberals are
going to
win, and I think
we've gone to
Conservatives will probably come in second.
Bringing a positive message, talking about dental care, mental health care. We've reached a lot of people. We've had a really motivated team. We've had volunteers going from door to door. People are responding. We're proud of the message we're putting out there, and absolutely glad that we were able to share
It's
this
just kind of crazy, though, how
40 seats in the last election. How confident
small
are you that
this
you're going to be able to
election is,
maintain
though.
that?
I mean, the structure of the party has gotten much more robust and more professional.
Like, I kind of expected it to be fairly small, all things considered, because of how fucking shitty
province. We've got
everything is.
Talking about things that matter to people, like dental care, like mental health. We're talking about housing. We're talking about all kinds of supports, and we're proud of it.
All right, well, thank you so much for being with us. So right now, we're going to send things back to you in studio, but of course, we'll have more updates coming up here live at headquarters in Hamilton.
All right, thank you for that, Shalima. And just a reminder, at the corner of your screen, you are seeing Doug Ford and his family watching election results, very early results. We now have 3 for the NDP, 2 for the Conservative Party, but again, these are leading and elected, and we'll see where those are. None for the Liberals. Let's go right to Sean O'Shea. He's in Vaughan.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Liberals haven't gotten anything yet.
At some point this evening. How are things going there?
Well, Stephen Del Duca is upstairs in a room right now watching this with members of his family. Unlike Doug Ford, whose images you showed a little while ago, the Liberal Party is not allowing our pool camera to go in and show those images. A very different atmosphere. Will this party headquarters be a party tonight? Well, I guess we're going to find out. Dan Moulton, you're the communications guy for the Liberals. Is it going to be a party tonight?
Look, I think if we look at where we were 4 years ago, we've made a heck of a lot of progress, and I think that tonight we will be in a position to form a new party in the Ontario legislature.
I asked you off camera what would be success tonight. you told me party status.
Well,
Is that
I think
a pretty
either,
low bar?
I think that the Liberals are going to win.
It's exactly where
possibly
we need to be tonight.
NDP.
And over the last 4 years, we've done a
But
lot of
NDP has only
rebuilding.
taken like a very early lead, so we don't know yet.
Not enough seats to form a party, $10 million in debt. We've done a lot of rebuilding these last 4 years, and we're excited about the results.
Final quick question. Stephen Del Duca lost the last time in his own seat. Is he going to be able to win this seat tonight?
We're feeling really confident here.
I think he honestly might.
Well, thanks very much. So there you go. Here at Liberal headquarters, they've got the buttons out. A few people showing up. The drinks are opening up. People now starting to come in. But this is going to be a really interesting place to watch tonight, because are the Liberals going to be able to bounce back? Will they get official party status? Could they become the official opposition? Will Stephen Del Duca win his seat? Lots of questions that need to be answered.
Oh, man,
we're
where
going to
did
be
it
here
go?
to answer all of them for you. Back to you.
Alan, did you hear though? Thank you so much, Sean. And Sean
Some
asked that
fucking,
question: is it going to be a party tonight? And
Conservatives
there was, very much
from like Winnipeg's being like,
what do you mean by party?
I've seen enough, brother.
Yeah, but it's a
Doug
good
Ford and the
I think it's
Progressive
pretty clear there's going to be a
Conservatives.
party at Matthew,
I've
where
seen
Matthew
enough.
Bingley is. Maybe there's just a party with wherever Matthew
We'll have a
Bingley is at
majority.
all times. I don't know that. But
I
Matt's
honestly
at the
don't think
PC
that they will.
headquarters tonight, Matt.
Ooh, they tied.
That's right, and I'm joined here now with Conservative strategist Jason Leader.
Well,
Jason,
I hope that
you know, a
the
lot has been
fucking,
made about the change in tone of this campaign.
I hope
a
that
lot
the
more
fucking
measured,
NDP win.
Doug
I
Ford
really hope that they
staying
win
on
for
message.
Ontarians.
How much? I guess the question is, how much of a strategy was it to make sure that he didn't veer off of that?
Yeah, very deliberate strategy. I think there was two sort of points to that. One, sort of staying people out of people's faces. People have seen a lot of this guy over the last couple of years, and you know sometimes it's best to just pull back and say, you know what, I've done a decent job. You know, you guys sort of judge me and have at it. And then second, staying on that really simple message, which is, you know, the economy is a little bit in turmoil. You're looking around, you're seeing Ukraine, you're seeing inflation, interest rate rises, all that kind of stuff. Somebody's going to work on that stuff. Somebody's got that. And he's got the sort of the the sort of business background to let that out. But I think the real key here, as I said earlier, was staying out of people's faces. It was the quietest election campaign in Ontario that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think that was a very deliberate strategy by the Ford team to sort of, again, just let people sort of decide, he did a pretty good job, let's give him another shot.
You know, just on that,
That's not
staying out
good.
of the public eye, there were a lot of
The PCs are up
criticisms
by
leveled at this
16,
campaign
Jesus.
for maybe not engaging enough with the electorate.
It's not good.
Is there too little that you can actually engage with the
I
voters
really
in the
hope that the
campaign?
Conservatives
Yeah, it's a great
lose.
question. So I actually disagree generally with that, because I think Ford, number one, everybody knows what Doug Ford stands for. The guy stood in front of, sort of a microphone for the better part of 2 years, answering more questions than anybody's ever answered, any Ontario premier's ever answered over the course of a 2-year span. I think people knew what they were getting with Mr. Ford, and I don't think he's him and Mr. Trudeau are legitimate political superstars. Everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows what they stand for. Everyone has seen them sort of answer all these questions. So I think really,
Yeah, but,
truthfully,
like,
a little bit less
the thing
in your face
is
a
that
really
Doug
good thing to do,
Ford
and it was the right
is a
strategy for
fucking
this campaign.
loser compared to his brother. His brother was fucking
A
awesome.
little bit later, I'll send it back to you for now.
Thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate that as we continue to look at live video of Doug Ford and his family
21.
taking into the results.
They're up by
Already
21.
PCs leading or
NDP
elected with
is
16,
5.
NDP 4, Liberals 2, Green 1.
Let's find out where. Here's David Aiken with more on the early results. What are you seeing, David?
That's right. We'll take a look at the map. We've got a lot of blue on the map. In Eastern Ontario, the PCs tend to dominate. They are leading right now in the bellwether riding. That's Peterborough right there. Dave Smith has a 32-vote lead with 1 poll reporting. But again, that's the bellwether riding of Peterborough. We did have, as we look through the province, we see a leaders riding right now. That's Guelph. Mike Schreiner is leading in Guelph. 2 polls reporting.
I'm honestly not surprised that Mike Schreiner is
500-vote lead. That's very good after 2 polls. Mike Schreiner leading. For the NDP, they'll be very heartened to hear in Ottawa Centre they appear to be holding Joel Harden. That's going to be a two-way fight between the NDP and the Liberals all night. New Democrat Joel Harding up by 500 on the Liberal Katie Gibbs. But again, take a look at this map right now. Where the Conservatives have seats, they're by and large holding seats. And in fact, if we take a look into Toronto now, we've zoomed in a little bit, we do see
Del Duca lost his fucking
that's Aris Babikian. He is
seat
holding
again.
on. He is the incumbent, 286 vote lead, 3
Oh, that's
polls
funny,
in.
man.
Other ridings that we're keeping an eye on in the Toronto region, Scarborough Rouge Park, PC's also holding. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, David.
Jesus,
Thanks for coming back to
why
us
are
because
the
we've got some breaking news coming in.
Why are the PCs like... actually like fucking winning though. Majority government.
Wow, that was fast. Global News projecting that the Progressive Conservatives will form a majority government. They have, or are expected to, secure at least 63 seats in the legislature.
10 minutes after the polls closed is when this call is being made. Let's go right to Matthew Bingley, PC headquarters. Matt. Oh, we don't have him yet. We're looking at a live shot there, and it's not full yet. So I'm sure the celebration will happen. Sometimes when these calls take a while, it's you see the celebration, but even it's so early, there aren't so many people here. David, can we bring you back in, because I just want to understand how we got here so fast.
Well, we got here so fast because again,
we already got one conservative elected.
They have strength right across the province. They have the most efficient vote. But let's take a look at some examples of some pickups we see now. It's still early. I want to stress that. By the popular vote, it's clear the Conservatives will win that majority. But right now, Vaughan Woodbridge is in the PC column. Vaughan Woodbridge, that's the riding of Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca. He right now is 800 votes behind the Conservative incumbent Michael Tobolo. 800 votes behind.
I think that's just going to be like a little bit of a mirage.
Like after 3 polls for Michael
I would be surprised
over Stephen Del Duca.
Oh fuck, that just jumped like crazy.
Here's a riding where Conservatives generally
3 Conservatives elected, leading.
That is the riding of Humber River
31,
Black Creek. Typically,
32,
it's the New Democrats
34,
are the incumbent. It's
total.
often Liberal, and yet Paul Nguyen is winning with 112 votes right now. Conservatives up 112 with 4 polls in Humber River Black Creek. That's Toronto. Even a little further south, York Southwestern, another riding where Conservatives historically do not do well. Some guy named Ford is running here, Michael Ford. He is the nephew of the Premier Doug Ford. He's got a 42-vote lead. That's pretty slim. 2 polls reporting 42-point lead for Michael Ford, the PC,
might win
over New Democrat incumbent Faisal Hassan. So that's what's going on right now. I mentioned for the Liberals, ridings they have to have. The first riding I signaled earlier tonight that they have to have, that would be Eglinton Lawrence. And sure enough, Arlena Hebert, the Liberal, is right now leading by 8 votes over Robin Martin, the Progressive Conservative incumbent. 2 polls reporting, but that would be something the Liberals, we're talking about a recovery. For the Liberals, right now it's a battle for second place. Doug Ford is going to lead another majority government. Why? He won ridings already held, and he's picking up in places. Conservatives, well, he's leading in places. Conservatives have never, ever had any luck.
All right, thanks, David. And as you see those numbers,
this is actually very surprising.
Progressive Conservatives leading or elected 13 NDP.
I honestly think that the NDP had it.
You ask yourself, how
especially like after the Ontario's leaders debate, with how poorly Doug Ford had
the popular vote stands right now. And this compares also to 2018.
With how awful
right now,
Doug Ford's fucking
the Progressive Conservatives actually slightly bettering their 2018 results. And remember that in 2018 they won 76 seats. The Liberals have bounced back with a little bit more than
Doug
they
Ford
were in 2018.
is so fucking boring compared to like
look at that,
his fucking
number
brother Rob. Like Rob was fucking awesome.
And the Greens up. That's good news for the Greens, regardless how it ends at the end of the night, at 6.7% of popular vote at this point in the evening.
But of course, the Greens do want that other seat at Queen's Park. Let's go again to Matthew Bingley. He is at PC headquarters. What was the moment like there, Matt?
Jesus.
Well, you could hear it in the background. I was in the middle of talking with Jason
Yeah,
Leader.
I think PCs are going to win again.
A huge cheer went up from the crowd, a lot of chanting, a lot of very, very happy voices, and really no surprise.
I think the biggest problem
evening, talking to some of the campaign insiders, they were saying that they had big smiles on their faces,
like,
but they
I
didn't
honestly
want to
think
get
that what had ended up happening,
but
what's ended up
just
happening
right now, the energy level in this room has noticeably picked up. And you can hear people just milling about, a lot more happy faces than
there's a very
really
low voter turnout, and like old people are always going to vote, and they generally tend to vote for
She's over at the NDP, and I mean, as Alan pointed out in that popular vote, they are down even in the popular vote. So we'll see what the C count is, but I believe we should have Shalima.
8 elected, 4 Conservatives.
Also at the corner of your screen, and we are still looking at Doug Ford and his wife and his family watching results. Go ahead, Shalima.
Hi there, guys. You know, in the room right now, I can tell you there's definitely a lot more people in and around the convention center just waiting for the arrival of Andrea Horvath. There really hasn't been much of an overall mood shift. You haven't heard more people sort of talking quite yet. I think obviously the big battle for second place has been where all eyes have been, primarily throughout this race and throughout the evening. You know, we've been talking to people about what their expectations are going in here, and a lot of the questions again continue to fall on whether or not there is going to be a future
wins the election,
with the
but like
leader of the party.
CTV
whether or not
projects.
Andrea Horvath is going to remain with this
Yeah, but that doesn't
party
necessarily
going
mean he
forward.
will win.
Obviously,
I have a feeling that
them
he
gain quite a
probably
bit of
will
momentum
win.
during that 2018 election. Clearly, they were up against the Liberals in a
Yeah,
battle for that
53.
second place, and so right now,
I have a feeling that they might
I'm
win.
going to step out of the way. I'm not sure if you can see here, but you know, we do have a few more people coming in. We're still awaiting her arrival, but certainly once we do get that, and once we do continue to see those results trickle in, we'll bring you all of the latest from campaign headquarters here in Hamilton. But for now, I'll send it back to you in studio.
Thank you, Shalima. Let's check in on Vaughn
I'm actually kind of
Woodbridge and the
disappointed.
results as they're
I
coming in
honestly
from
thought
there. And
that,
this
you know,
is not good news for Stephen Del
the
Duca
fucking
or Liberal hopes for a
NDP
comeback.
would have actually
results
won
at this point with
because they
4
would have
out of
actually done
38
something instead of
polls
like
reporting
the fucking
is that Michael
conservatives just
Tabolo
lying
is
about
more
it
than
and being like,
doubling at this
yeah, well,
point.
we don't give a shit.
The vote count for Stephen
Like
Del Duca is still
we'll do
early,
something,
but,
but
that is a
we ultimately don't give a shit.
sizable,
That's essentially what they're
sizable
saying.
Lead in Vaughn Woodbridge for the PC incumbent.
Oh, the stakes are really high in this riding for him. Let's go right to Sean O'Shea. He's now at the Liberal Party headquarters. Sean.
Well, Farah, I said a few minutes ago, would it be a party here at party headquarters? And it's certainly not a party
I do want to
right
thank
now,
all the
not
fucking
with
poll
information like that. Pretty down mood here right now because it does not look good for the Liberals or for Stephen Del Duca. And I want to speak to one of Stephen Del Duca's neighbors in the neighborhood who worked for him, Emily Grosso. What do you think about the fact that Mr. Del Duca is behind and that we've declared that the Conservatives will win a majority government?
Well, it's not over
Yeah,
yet.
I honestly
it's over,
think
as
that,
they say. And Stephen has worked so hard; he deserves this.
I honestly
seat
think
in
that, you know,
Woodbridge.
since
we'd like him
the
to be the leader
fucking conservatives
here,
are going to possibly
He's lived
win.
in this neighborhood all his life. And he's
I
a
think
wonderful
that,
man and hardworking. I know the family. I see them walking their dog, taking his children to school.
I think
so,
that they're
we
going
always
to like
talk,
fucking
"Hello, how are
privatize
you?"
healthcare
and, you
now,
know, as a neighbor.
or at least like portions of
Yes,
it
I will
in
be.
fucking Ontario.
As soon as we get the full report, I will be. But we've been Liberals. I have. I'll speak for myself, not
I
my
love
family.
I love
my
the little
parents were immigrants,
liberal grandma.
And from the Diefenbaker days, immigrants were not looked upon as favorable people by the PC government. My father was a laborer. We were 6 children, and he lost his job. Then Pearson came in, and he had a job, and my father said, I will be a Liberal till the day I die. He's got every book on Pearson, and I took them all.
Emily, thanks very much. Emily, very much a big
Let's
Liberal,
go, Gay.
disappointed
I hope he wins.
With the results. And of course, we're waiting for more results here in this riding. But as Alan, you said a few moments
I
ago,
hope Pasma
not
wins.
looking good for Stephen Del Duca in this riding, in his own riding. He lost last time, and things are not looking good for him
Yeah,
tonight.
you
We'll send it
actually
back to
might
you.
fucking lose this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean.
We want to take a look at some Liberal and Conservative pickups right now.
Gordy,
Let's start in Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte. This is going to be an interesting one.
Gamari
Doug Downey
was
is here.
just
He
confirmed
is
to be
against,
reelected.
Jeff Lehman, he is a former Barrie mayor and you know, three-term mayor, popular
he is
mayor.
a
We'll see what happens
conservative.
there. We're also looking at Eglinton Lawrence over here, and we can see the it's pretty close there. Now, only 8 polls are reporting, but you see the Liberal is ahead.
In Toronto, St. Paul's, what do we have here? The Progressive Conservative out in front of the Liberal. Pardon me, this is Brampton Centre, apologies, with the Progressive Conservative
I'm actually kind of
leading
surprised.
here. This is where the Liberals were hoping
Del
to
Duca
come back, maybe, and Sarah
or,
Singh there is the incumbent, and she's in 3rd.
I should
In
say
York
the
South-Weston, Michael Ford,
the NDP
might
and the
another
Liberals
Ford be heading
on
to Queen's
the
Park.
Ontario
Right
front
now in
actually work
York
together.
South-Weston, Michael Ford is in the
And Yeah, they.
All right, let's bring in our panel because I'm so curious. Oh, actually, hold on. We have one more.
I'm kind of surprised that, fucking
with the NDP incumbent Jill Andrew.
The Conservatives are going to win again.
Out in front of Nathan Stahl. This is so important for the Liberals. David Aiken has been talking about this. This is a Liberal stronghold if ever there was one. They lost it in 2018. They need to get it back with Nathan Stahl.
And of course, the NDP hoping to hold
Mary
on to
Rita
that. Let's bring in Tracy on our panel tonight. You can tell how excited I was to speak to you, Tracy, because I'm sure they have a lot to say about this.
200
our panel has been waiting at the edge of this desk to just weigh in on everything.
NDP.
We knew that it was all going to happen so quickly once
I think
the
she
polls
might
closed,
win.
and it did. Global News calling a PC majority government. 11 minutes. It took 11 minutes. Melissa, I don't think you were surprised because you actually placed a bet and won some money tonight.
These are the things we bet on. So I thought that they would come in between 9:11 and 9:13, but that felt pretty fast. And first of all, congratulations to the Premier. I think the people of Ontario.
And just not to interrupt you here, but we've got a live picture right now, live video
it's
of
over
Mike Schreiner, who was watching the results come
Ontario,
in with
right?
his family. He's expected to win his riding. Again, he made history in the last election to be the first MPP for the Green Party in the legislature.
Stephen Ballas
back
reelected.
To whether anyone was surprised. I know, Melissa, you weren't, and you were just in the middle of your sentence there.
Yeah, well, I would say, I'll repeat that. Congratulations to the Premier. I think Ontarians get, 4 more years of an agenda that is ambitious. There's
Joel
a lot
Harden,
to do. There's a lot to build.
Has won his re-election in Ottawa Centre.
Has certainly made his mark, and I think we'll see 4 more years of stability.
Sarjeet, Kim, you want to weigh in on
John
whether
Jordan
this was a
elected,
surprise to you?
Progressive Conservative.
Look, congratulations to the Premier and his team.
Whether
I like the results at the end of an evening on an election night is irrelevant. Democracy is never wrong. Voters are never wrong. What I will say to those who are watching and going, one, how the heck did this all happen, given what we've seen, and what does this mean for us going
How did
forward?
it happen?
The reality is this.
Low
if you
voter
want to have
turnout,
your
most
voice
likely.
heard, you can have your voice heard. You can talk to your MPPs. You can develop coalitions. You can get governments to listen and move on items that matter to you. So do not be disheartened at the end of the day, but those who show up and vote are the ones who, that's how this works. This is how democracy works. But to the Premier, to his team, to everyone who's getting elected tonight, congratulations. To everyone who has
Mary
run,
Lee,
it is a heck of a thing.
Fullerton
and congratulations
was just
to
re-elected.
you. It doesn't feel like it should be congratulatory. Whatever, if you're not on the happy side of election night,
Carlton.
but what you did for democracy is wonderful. So thank you.
Absolutely, and we are watching
Steve Clark
all of democracy's
re-elected.
work unfold tonight. Thank you so much for that. We got to send it back to the desk for now, but we'll return in just a little bit. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Tracy.
Greenville, Thousand
Let's
Island.
take a look at the numbers there. 64 is the current leading and elected. The Progressive Conservatives cruising into majority territory now with 64, the NDP 23, Liberals 9, the Green Party at 1.
That's right, and we can now confirm to you that Mike Schreiner has won his riding, the riding of Guelph that he got 4 years ago. It was a Liberal
66.
stronghold as well there, and then Mike Schreiner took it 4 years ago, and it once again has taken it today, becoming the first Green MPP. He's hoping to have the second Green MPP, or maybe even the third tonight at Queen's Park.
Let's go to Guelph, where Karen Lieberman is standing by with the Green Party. Karen.
Alan, certainly a celebratory mood here. As you just reported, Mike Schreiner did take his seat once again in Guelph by a comfortable lead.
John Fraser re-elected in South Ottawa.
First time making history as
He's
the
a
first elected Green MPP at the legislature. The big question at this point is, will he be bringing a couple of buddies with him to the legislature? The whole goal of this party is really to make gains at Queen's Park. But I'll tell you, it didn't matter a couple of minutes ago.
CBC projects that Doug Ford will form a majority government in Ontario.
When the crowd learned that Mike Schreiner took his seat in Guelph, they of course were cheering. They're getting ready for him to enter into this banquet hall at the Delta Hotel in Guelph. He should be here around 9:40. He'll make his way to the stage and he'll talk about getting his seat again, about making gains. The big question will be, other two ridings that we're watching
I honestly
tonight,
feel bad for Ontarians.
hoping to
Like,
win, and those are
they have to put up with Doug Ford for another 4 fucking years. Like, I'm sorry, that's just game over, right?
Rolling in a little bit slower. There were delays there, so that'll be a big question mark. At University Rosedale is a former environmental commissioner, Diane Sachs. Perry Sound Muskoka, here we go. He's up on the screen, and it shows the results for Mike Schreiner. And as you can hear, his supporters are really happy with the results. But again, Perry Sound Muskoka, we'll find out what the results are coming in a little bit later. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Karen. And just a reminder, Perry Sound Muskoka, that is that area houses Doug Ford's cottage. So we will see, yes, we will see what happens in that area. But we want to confirm to you right now that Transportation Minister Carolyn Mulroney has won her riding. She got it 4 years ago, and she's gotten it again. It's been PC since it was created in 2007.
To another minister within the Ford government, Huron Bruce. Lisa Thompson was Minister of Education for a while, was at dissolution, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, has been re-elected in Huron. Bruce. Let's go to David. Shall we go to David Aiken?
Yeah,
David Aiken's got all kinds of colors, but what's that gray we're looking at?
What is that gray? What is that gray, you say? Let me tell you. We're in the riding of Haldimand, Norfolk. That is the one other that we're talking about. And there's an interesting backstory on this in Haldimand, Norfolk, way down in the southwest. The woman leading here is Bobby Ann Brady, independent. We didn't get a picture of Bobby Ann, but who is she? I'll tell you. The longtime MPP for this riding was Toby Barrett. Toby Barrett, Progressive Conservative. Now, Toby Barrett wanted to retire, and he said to the party, I'd like my executive assistant, Bobby Ann Brady, to be the candidate to replace me. And the party said, nah, we'd rather have this guy, Ken Hewitt. Toby Barrett was a bit miffed about that, and Toby Barrett has thrown his entire machine, if you will, behind his former executive assistant, Bobby Ann Brady. So the vote on the right, this is a very conservative riding. It is going to vote for a conservative candidate. Even though she's an independent, she'd call herself conservative. Here's what happened here. Bobby Ann Brady,
she's
that's Toby
literally
Barrett's poll, getting her up
a
there.
fucking conservative, but probably she's probably just more open about the
PC,
fucking
Ken Hewitt is in second.
a lot of the Nazi
there's your
shit
split of
that
the
they
PC
say.
vote in favor
Also
of Bobby
nice.
Ann Brady. But there's more here. We got the Ontario Party. Yes, we'll be talking about these new splinter parties. He's got Sheldon Simpson is in fourth with 5% of the vote, probably peeling off something from the Progressive Conservatives.
I mean,
but wait,
most likely,
more.
though.
Yes, there is. I'm going to flip up to the next board. There's the Liberal candidate in 6. Liberals are a non-starter here. But we have the New Blue Party, Nate Hawkins. Another one of these sort of splinter candidates on the right side. He's got 5% of the vote. So you've got New Blue taking 5%. You've got Ontario Party taking 5%. The PC has got 29%. And Bobby Ann Brady, endorsed by a very popular former MPP who's basically given the finger to the party, she's ahead in Haldimand, Norfolk. That's the backstory. Pretty good, eh? Pretty exciting little race. Now, I want to look at some new Democrats, because as we look below, we have right now, we call the chicklets below. The Progressive Conservatives are leading or elected in 70, NDP leading or elected in 26. The NDP, there's some good news in there. They won 40 in 2018. I don't think they're going to get there tonight, but right now, if we go way up to the north of the province, Thunder Bay, Superior North, another longtime MPP who was quite respected on all sides, Michael Gravel. He was a Liberal. He's had to retire essentially for health reasons. And right now, it looks like the NDP are poised to steal that seat in Thunder Bay, Superior North. Lise Vaugeois, the new Democrat, has a 670 vote lead, 22 polls reporting. So that's good news for the New Democrats there. And then one I want to show you in Ottawa, West Nepean.
This is honestly kind of depressing.
Capital. In 2018, the Conservatives won by 175 votes over the PCs. Well, guess what? It's a rematch. Chandra Pasma has a 466 vote lead right now over the Conservative that beat her last time, Jeremy Roberts. It's 37% to 32%, 13 polls reporting. So Ottawa, West Nepean could be another new Democrat in the National Capital Region. Still a lot to go, but right now Chandra Pasma leading over Jeremy Roberts. There you go.
All right. Thank you for that, David.
Take a look at the numbers there as the Progressive Conservatives have now topped 70 at 71 Progressive Conservatives leading or elected, 26 for the NDP, 9 for the Liberals, 1 for the Green Party. Let's talk about the leaders in their ridings right now. Doug Ford has been re-elected in Etobicoke North. The king of Etobicoke, as David Aiken likes to call him, is re-elected, heading back to Queen's Park.
And we also have Andrea Horvath. Let's see how she's doing. Okay, nice. And she has been elected, there you go, in her riding of Hamilton Centre. Now, those two didn't come as a surprise, and neither did this one, perhaps. Nope. Mike Schreiner elected in the riding of Guelph, as we told you.
All right, let's go to Vaughan Woodbridge, and this has got to be a bit of just a knee knocker for the Liberals tonight, because look at that. Michael Tobolo is way up in front. We're not far enough yet that we can declare him elected. 9 out of 38 polls, but at 57% of the vote, it does not look good for Stephen Del Duca going back to Queen's Park.
And just
honestly
a little
thought
bit of a
like Del Duca
here on this riding.
possibly had it in the bag.
Del Duca held this seat for 6 years, and then after that happened, Michael Tobolo took it, and this riding was a risk, right? It was a risk for Del Duca. Even though he has deep roots here, he lost it just 4 years ago. So we'll see what happens tonight, and it's going to be hard to tell if he stays on as leader, Alan, if he loses the seat. What's going to happen?
There's going to be a lot of questions about that. Let's go to Daryl Bricker from Ipsos, who's in our newsroom. Daryl, what are you seeing tonight?
Well, I think the question about who was going to win second place is now clearly over. There was a bit of confusion in some of the polling about who was in second place, but quite clearly tonight, it's the NDP. They're going to form the official opposition again after tonight. And now the question, the only really big questions that are still on the table are, does Stephen Del Duca win his seat, and does the Liberal Party regain official party status? And it looks like a stretch at the moment.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Kingston now. Global Kingston. Bill Hutchins is standing by with a look at that region. Over to you, Bill.
All right, thanks, Farah. Yeah, Kingston and the Islands riding, as we predicted earlier, shaping up to be a very close race between the Liberals and the NDP. The NDP hold this riding currently since 2018. Liberals trying to get it back. This has been a traditional Liberal stronghold. And if we look at the boards, if we have them there, we can show you that, Liberal candidate Ted Hsu is up by 40%. He started to pull ahead now, ahead of Mary Rita Holland, who was hoping to hang on to this riding for the NDP. She's actually in a neck-and-neck race with the PC candidate, former Kingston Mayor Gary Bennett. So they seem to be fighting it out for second place in this riding, but it looks like this riding is going to turn red. Over in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, we're getting some results there, and the PC candidate John Jordan is already opening up a big lead over the other candidates. He's a first-time candidate here. This is former Randy Hillier country. He's not running this time. John Jordan has stepped in, and he has taken a commanding lead in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. Over in Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, we have Ford Cabinet Minister Steve Clark. No surprises here. He's also pulling ahead. He's going, he's had this riding since 2010, and it looks like he is going back to Queen's Park for another term if these results hold up. And in the big riding of Hastings, Lennox, and Addington.
It's Derek Sloan. Oh, man. I really wish that they had invited him.
Prince Edward Island.
Oh,
New candidate
I fucking
Rick
love
Brzee
Derek Sloan.
is also well ahead.
He only got 100 votes, though. That's actually kind of funny, though.
Candidates and parties combined. And Bay of Quinte, Todd Smith looks like he's cruising to his fourth term. Yes, he's driving the big blue
Derek
Ford
Sloan
machine on cruise
Derek
control
Sloan in such a long
Bay
time.
Of Quinte. So 4 of these ridings
Kinda
around
crazy
Kingston and the Islands are reasons
he's
why
actually,
Doug Ford is heading to his second majority government. The only question, will Kingston and the Islands be a little red riding in a sea of blue? We'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Bill.
That's kind of depressing.
The thing that I can't get over, Alan, that I'm still kind of trying to process is how quickly this call came. 11 minutes. And Tracy's going to join us now. Tracy, you have your insiders there. I'm curious if you or your insiders ever remember a quicker call than 11 minutes, and not just a call about a government, a call about a majority.
Well, let's ask them right now. Melissa, I know you weren't surprised by the 11-minute call, but do you recall a quicker call?
So it was 9:17 last time in 2018, and I remember making the walk from a room in the convention center to the convention center, and it was it needed to be a brisk walk, but this was
Wait, who's the other
And like Daryl said, I think there's a few questions left on whether the Liberals can make that official party status, whether whether Stephen Del Duca wins his seat, because I think that'll be very telling for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, and that absolutely is one riding that we are watching closely, as are many people, because a lot is weighing on that. What happens in Vaughan Woodbridge, where Stephen Del Duca is running, and he is lagging behind right now, even though the votes are still being counted. If we have that board, if we can just pull it up.
Who is
but
the independent?
I wanted to ask you, Sarbjeet, what do you think is on Stephen Del Duca's mind right now, and what does this mean for his political future? What exactly is weighing on this riding?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of the outcome, the Liberal Party and all of the candidates who ran under Stephen Del Duca owe him a huge debt of gratitude. It's not easy to come in when he came in, you know, a party that was basically rebuilding from ground zero, giving it your all, working very hard, fearlessly, and supporting all these candidates and doing his best. So huge debt of gratitude to Stephen. And all three parties, I think, you know, as happens after elections, they stop and they take stock of what they want to do to continue building and making further gains. I think the popular vote shows us that the middle class is gravitating back towards the Liberals, and even the Conservatives, they owe some of their gains to moving more towards the center. I mean, Doug Ford doesn't even really identify himself as a Conservative anymore. He says, I'm just Doug Ford, and some of the policies that they've put forward are basically a reversal of things that they had rolled back from the Liberal government, like investments in health care and the minimum wage freeze and all of those things.
I'm honestly not surprised on like
you know, I think if anyone
anything
can
that the fucking Conservatives are going to do.
It doesn't matter what
they're just fucking
they are.
awful.
Humility requires that you take stock of what people have actually been saying, and that popular vote is saying that people want the government to invest in those middle class issues.
Right now, the Liberal Party, of course, votes are still being counted, but they are still a few seats short of official party status.
If only
would gaining official party status be a victory for the Liberal Party? And if they don't, what message does that send?
I think it would be a huge victory. It's, you know, obviously something that the Liberals have been aiming for. If not, again, you know, it's rebuilding. Nothing happens overnight. They've made really good progress, and it's a long game. And
I really wish that, you know, they actually could have got someone better.
It's going to continue to be around for a long time. And the people who've been involved and are invested in this party and are part of this party, they are very loyal people, and they will continue to do that work. This is not something that is over tonight at all.
It's not over, but the narrative now is, Kim, that the race for second place, it seems pretty clear that the NDP will likely take that spot. What is the future for that party?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, and you know, look, it's never easy being on the ugly side of election night, and so my heart goes out to Stephen Del Duca and Liberals. There's also the last two campaigns, this one and in 2018, there was a lot of burning of the furniture, and you know, where we saw, you know, Liberal strategist after Liberal strategist say, you know, the NDP is to blame for their woes, the NDP is the problem, and you know, the whole Andrea Horwath would be worse than Doug Ford and all of this stuff, really trying to diminish the New Democrat brand. But what we were seeing on doorstep after doorstep was that voters, Ontarians, were tired of what happened for 15 years. They were tired of promises that came in, like the guaranteed basic income that came in at the last possible moment under a 15-year government. They were tired of performative measures. They saw what Stephen Del Duca had to offer and said, no, we saw this, and it didn't live up to the hype. You know, Buck a Ride would have bankrupted transit agencies across Ontario. That's what they rejected. They need to go back to the drawing board, and I know there's burning up phone lines right now of Liberal leadership candidates making the rounds.
Yeah, and we are going to have to wrap it up there. Things moving very quickly at this time. Farah and Alan, I'm going to send things back to you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, we were hearing that we might hear Green Party leader Mike Schreiner speak at sometime, maybe even soon, so just stay tuned for that. But first, we want to take a look at the seat gains and losses that we're seeing tonight. How will Queen's Park look different today?
Well, look at the number there. Leading and elected 76-27 for the NDP, Liberals 10, Greens at 1. Just compare that to 2018, Farah, when it was a juggernaut against Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals, where the Progressive Conservatives win 76 in 2018. They're there already.
Wow. And you know, the NDP too benefiting from that Liberal collapse as well. Here's your historic
it's kind of
popular
crazy,
vote,
though.
and you were seeing an increase with the PCs by just a few percentage points, but as Ellen mentioned, that's going to translate into seats. The NDP down. They are down in the popular vote. The Liberals up, but they were at it was pretty low last time, and even the Greens up as well.
So we know that the NDP will form official opposition, but when you look at that popular vote, what is so key there is that the Liberal number comes up. And because the Liberal number comes up, then you see more of a split between the NDP and the Liberal. And it's pretty clear that that's allowed some progressive Conservatives to win in places where traditionally maybe they wouldn't have a shot.
So you see where they parked their vote instead of voting.
Because the split between the progressives has been more marked this time than last time in 2018. That's why you're seeing so many more, such a commanding victory by the progressive Conservatives tonight.
Absolutely. Let's go to Carrie Ferguson. She's with Global Peterborough, the bellwether. Tell us about that area and others that you're watching.
Yeah, Farah, Allen, things are getting really exciting here now. We have results just pouring in for the 3 ridings we are covering, and we have 2 elected so far. So let's start in Peterborough Kawartha. This one hasn't been called quite yet, but
I do think Dave Smith is going to win that, though.
Dave Smith, the incumbent here, 40% of the vote at this time. Last time around, he ended up with 37%. So that's a pretty healthy lead for him right now. Greg Dempsey in second from the Liberals. And here we go. David Pacini has been reelected. This really is no surprise here. He is back for a second term. He has been rewarded before. As I said earlier, he has made such a name for himself in that riding. And again, no surprise, Laurie Scott has been reelected. She is back for a 6th term. That's right, 6th term since 2003, capturing 52% of the vote this time around. And again, the numbers aren't done yet, but a very healthy lead for all the PCs in our ridings. Farah, Allen, back to you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Let's go back to David Aiken with a look at some of the interesting races. And as we're looking at the details coming along the side of your screen, we're seeing a number of places where we're not getting any results at all.
You've got that right. So if you did the math on the numbers below, 78 leading or elected PCs, 27 leading or elected New Democrats, 10 Liberals, 1 Green, 1 other. That 1 other is Haldeman Norfolk. You don't get 124. That's the number of seats in the legislature. So these gray areas, why are they gray? We haven't got any results on them. And that's because Elections Ontario had some problems in all of these ridings, extended the hours of some polls, and Elections Ontario will not release any results for these ridings until all the polls have closed. Way up here in Kiiwetinoong, that is the riding held by Salma Makwa. No results in. I'm going to put that at the end of the night in the NDP column. Saul's a rock star in his caucus in the region. So that now the NDP might get to 28. What about Thunder Bay, Atikokan? It is NDP there, the incumbents. It might be Liberal at the end of the day, but that could be NDP as well. This right here, Algoma Manitoulin, Michael Mantha, he should win this. He might want to run for leader if Andrea Horvath decides to move along. So there's, as I say, in the north, you could probably maybe give the NDP 3 more seats. They might get to 30. But then these other gray seats, as we are here in Ontario, Perth, Wellington, that's Conservative. That's now we get to 82 for the PCs. Right here, the wraparound Flamborough-Glanbrook, Donna Skelly, she's the incumbent. She's likely to be repeat, but we have no results yet. So I just wanted to point those out. We'll probably see the NDP bump, maybe up to 30. The PCs, boy, Mike Harris won 82 in a 130-seat legislature. Right now, Doug Ford has an 81 in his column in a 124-seat legislature.
I can't really say that I'm surprised, though.
You know the best performance by a progressive Conservative since 1945? Mike Harris was 2. Leslie Frost, way back in 1955, won something like 90. So
yeah,
Doug Ford right now, he's going to put himself in the history books. If he hangs around 81, that would be one of the best ever. I also wanted to note, too, we haven't talked about this.
It just passed majority government.
NDP expense down in the southwest corner. Essex, that was an NDP stronghold. Taras Natishik held it. He's not running again. And right now, Anthony Leardy has a 4,000 vote lead over the New Democrat, Ron Leclerc. That is the riding of Essex. And then we go the other side of Windsor, just north of Windsor, Windsor-Tecumseth. This is a bit of a surprise to me. I would put this in Liberal NDP territory, but not tonight. Right now, Andrew Dowie is leading with a 4,500-point lead.
All right, David, I have some stunning news. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. We can confirm now that Stephen Del Duca has lost his seat in Vaughan Woodbridge. Take a look at the results. You see Stephen Del Duca far behind Michael Tabolo. A lot of questions are going to start now about his leadership, what happens to him, his future. And you see the Liberal Party right now with 8 seats.
Let's get right to our Sean O'Shea, who's at Liberal headquarters first tonight. Sean.
Alan Farah, what a disaster for the Liberal Party tonight. I mean, we were hearing through this election campaign that the Liberals thought they were going to get 20, more than 20 seats.
That's that. I feel sorry for my fellow Ontarians who got stuck with Ford for another 4 years. I do understand the frustration that you all face, considering that, you know, I have like the worst fucking MP in Parliament right now, the most brain dead leader when it comes to premiers. Like, I don't know how Heather Stephenson makes fucking Brian Pallister actually look good and smart. Like, that's kind of hard to do. But yeah, that's
some trouble for
that's
Timmy's
that.
federal and provincial watch.
Let's go on to Tim Hortons secretly collecting data, or the Tim Hortons app collecting data.
Watchdog saying Tim Hortons' mobile ordering app violated the law by collecting location information from users. The investigation conducted by the Federal Privacy Commission found those who had downloaded the Tim Hortons app had their locations tracked and recorded every minute of the day, even when the app was not open. The commissioner found that although the app asked users permission to access location information, it misled them into believing their information would only be accessed when the app was actually open and in use. A lot of questions here. Let's bring in Stephen Lachance, technology cybersecurity analyst. Always good to see you. What do you make of this here, the implications?
Oh, that's kind of
very, very troubling allegations for Canadians. We all know how popular Tim Hortons is in Canada. Yeah, although not very surprising, unfortunately, that some companies engage into this sort of behavior. It is unfortunately very widespread of an industry, of a behind-the-scenes industry that just acts, partners up with all kinds of brands and all kinds of companies to gather as much data and information on people as possible. And that's what we saw with Tim Hortons. They partnered with a data broker that was willing to do business with them, and then they started sharing all this private, personal information.
I mean, like, are you really surprised by this, though? Like, I mean, of course, fucking corporations, you know, fucking spy on people. Like, it's not surprising at all.
Their customers with third parties, which is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you, Stephen, why would they be doing this, tracking people 24 hours a day, even when the app is actually not even on?
Money. There's for Tim Hortons. So, like in the report, we see that they used it to track their customers' habits, how often they come to the store, where they live, etc. But also tracking where and when their customers go to other stores like McDonald's, Starbucks, or anything else. So that is very, very problematic. And then, so their marketing department, I guess, was using this to make business decisions and try to, keep their customers. So there's a big money incentive there, but it's completely violating the most basic trust principles with more than 1 million of active users that they had with this application.
Yeah. What do you think it does for the image now and for that app as well, Stephen?
I think it's going to be very difficult for them to recover and to regain that trust. We know from previous data breaches and data leaks where trust has been violated by a big organization. It's very hard to recover. They're going to hear about it. We're all going to hear about it on online for years and years to come. Because now everybody knows that this company, should not be trusted with our information. We should not give them permission to our location, contacts, or photos, etc. And hopefully, I guess more importantly, I hope that people use this example and realize how important it is to not accept, to not grant permission to your personal information. When you install a new app, and they ask you permission for photos,
I mean, like, that doesn't even matter, though, because they can still get into, or they can still get access to all that even without your permission, so it ultimately doesn't even matter, though.
Camera, microphone, location, don't give it until there is an actual necessary purpose, and in this case, why should Tim Hortons have access to your 24/7 location data? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, well said. Stephen Lachance, technology cybersecurity analyst, joining us from Montreal with Tim Hortons in trouble over its app and privacy concerns. Thanks for that, Stephen.
Okay, what's this?
So much time and effort was spent on finding ways to redistribute Canada's wealth that there was little attention given to the importance of increasing our collective prosperity, let alone developing a disciplined way of thinking about and acting on the problem. I can tell you that there's no real sense of urgency in Ottawa about our lack of competitiveness. That might help you sell a few more memberships. It might even help you win an election. But when you put exciting the base ahead of crafting good policy, when you cynically pander to conspiracy theorists, you're doing incalculable harm to the country you claim to love and to the people that you seek to lead.
Okay. Let's talk about the $1 billion land claim settlement agreement with the Siksika. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, even though I should know how to pronounce these names. But Trudeau had signed a $1.3 billion land claim with First Nations. Let's watch.
Oh, I was just waiting on questions.
No. We say a few words first, then we...
Okay, this is Wanako Nukskas Stomach. I'd like to welcome you guys out today. Very historic day for Siksika. I'd like to, we consider the Prime Minister, the office as the head chief of Canada, and I'm the current head chief of Siksika. So I told the Prime Minister that when he's invited guests to Siksika, we don't worry about politics. It's chief to chief, it's nation to nation, as it was meant to be at the Blackfoot, signing of the Blackfoot Treaty of 1877. So welcome, thank you.
Okay, hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I'm happy to be here with Minister Miller and Minister Boissonnault. I want to I start by thanking Chief Ure Crowfoot and everyone welcoming us here today at Siksika Nation. C'est important pour moi d'être ici aujourd'hui pour la cérémonie et pour finaliser officiellement ce règlement de revendication historique. We also had a productive meeting with Chief and Council to talk about their priorities and all the work that we continue to do together. Today, we officialized a $1.3 billion historical claims settlement with Siksika Nation, one of the largest of its kind ever concluded in this country. This settlement focuses on past wrongs dating back to 1910, when the Government of Canada wrongfully took almost half of Siksika Nation's land. This included their most productive agricultural and mineral-rich lands. Today's announcement also addresses long-standing claims related to the Bow River Irrigation District, the Canadian Pacific Railway claim, and other land-based historical grievances. I want to recognize the tireless advocacy and leadership of the community here in Siksika Nation. You've fought for over 60 years. I commend your courage and determination, and our government is committed to work with you in partnership to address injustices and build a better future together. Le règlement de 1,3 milliard de dollars va permettre à la communauté d'investir dans leurs priorités comme l'infrastructure, l'éducation et le soutien pour les aînés. Les gens ici vont pouvoir avoir de nouvelles possibilités économiques, sociales et culturelles. I know that Chief Crowfoot has said that the settlement can support Siksika in developing true financial sovereignty. This is an opportunity to reclaim and self-determine your own destiny. Our government, of course, will continue to be here as friends and partners to advance the work we need to do and make sure no one gets left behind. Thank you very much. Mark.
Good afternoon. Today was a day to take a step forward in a different way than we've behaved in the past. The Prime Minister mentioned it, already Chief Crowfoot mentioned it. This is stuff that's been going on for 60 years. Righting a wrong that shouldn't have happened in the first place, that goes all the way back to 1910. So we're talking over 112 years. This isn't lost on anyone, especially the Siksika people who've fought so long for this day. The settlement, it's the one of the
I wonder how much violence they had to endure in order to get this fucking land. I mean, like, against them by, like, the fucking police and shit.
Just in Canadian history, but it isn't the end of the story, nor does it right absolutely all the wrongs that occurred. This is about a relationship, a one-based in treaty that was signed close to, well, in 1877, and swiftly violated thereafter by Canada. Today's a new day. It's a time to move on in respect and friendship, and really an opportunity to celebrate something with the community, particularly with all the work that remains in lifting up one of the most beautiful people and beautiful parts of the country. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We now have a maximum of 20 minutes for questions from media. That's one question, one follow-up per reporter. Ça va être un maximum de 20 minutes pour des questions des médias, avec une question de suivi par journaliste. On va commencer avec la première question. We can start with the first question.
Hi, Dylan Shore with Post Media. You've spoken a lot today about how this is, a step. Obviously, it's a big day, but I'm looking for answers from both the Prime Minister and the Chief. Building this relationship, building this nation to nation, what does that look like from each of your sides moving forward? How do we carry this momentum forward?
Well, I think, first of all, understanding that today is about recognizing terrible injustice of the past, where almost half of Siksika land was taken from them shortly after having been promised a partnership and a relationship that would be very, very different. We needed to recognize that this allows us now to move forward on solider footing, having undone a little bit of the broken trust of many years, of recognizing the harm that we did generations ago, but understanding as well that as large as the settlement is, it can't undo the loss, the trauma, the intergenerational impacts of what was done by Canada. So in our conversation, as I sat down with Chief and Council just now, was about the next steps around policing, around elders, around language, around financial independence, around a path to enable Siksika Nation to fully achieve its path forward. And that is something that today is just a mile marker along the road on, an important one, because we've recognized the mistakes of the past. But we have a lot of work to do, and I'm looking very much forward to doing that alongside this Chief and Council and future challenges that we may face. Chief?
Thank you. That's a good question. Today is not about, in my opinion, reconciliation. You're not going to make it right. But at the same time, nothing that could be done today is going to redo what was, or undo what was done in the past. So we can't, even though we learn, we got to learn from that's happened along the way. So now is a new day. We start today, we build relationships, and we move forward. So I'm very confident that we can build these nation-to-nation relationships between us and Canada. And it's about making these mutual beneficial agreements and having milestones and knocking those off. And it's about renewing that treaty. You know, the treaty took place 145 years ago.
I wonder how long it's going to take for them to actually, you know, break this fucking treaty and this fucking trust that they've built up with these people.
A lot of the promises in those treaties were broken. But now it's about having that relationship, rebuilding that relationship, rebuilding that understanding. And again, we can't focus on all that stuff that cannot be undone. We can learn from all that stuff and move forward. So I'm not saying we forget it. We learn from that stuff and we say, okay, Canada, how can we move forward? So this team, me and my council, we're committed to moving forward as Siksika. We're committed to moving forward with Canada. And we can, there's a lot of initiatives that we have going on right now that for the betterment of Siksika. And Siksika is one of the largest First Nations in Canada. And so as we move forward as a First Nation, we make Alberta better. And as Alberta becomes better, Canada becomes better. So it's not, we're not on an island. We're all Albertans together, we're all Canadians together. So we gotta work together to build a stronger relationship for Siksika and for Alberta and for Canada. So thank you.
Follow up, Dylan? Yeah, so I'm gonna double barrel question here for the chief as well. What, you know, you spoke about initiatives and projects. I guess what might that look like on the ground? Obviously $1.3 billion is a good chunk of change. What might that look like? And then earlier today you said that you're not quite sure if the Prime Minister is a true friend yet. What do you need to see from him as government to be able to, you know, give him and give the government of Canada that title?
Well, you know, you might have 5,000 Facebook friends, but then they're not your friends. So,
it's most
you know,
likely for political reasons that he did so.
Making that statement, this is the first time I've ever met the Prime Minister. I've actually met Mark Millen. I've worked with Mark Millen. I think the relationship we've had, the understanding we've had, everything that he told me he was going to do so far, he's done it. So I will say, from my relationship with Minister Miller, he's a friend for Siksika. He's an ally for Siksika. He's helped us push forward this far. And you know, there's a lot of initiatives we're working on. Like I said, we're the second largest First Nation from a land perspective, yet we don't have policing on the reserve. So we're looking.
Another fucking Palestinian journalist was killed by Israeli forces. Jesus.
Searches and mental health and there's a lot of initiatives that, you know, people with disabilities. That's a big discrimination. You know, if you're in Alberta,
I really wanted to talk about
if you're from Siksika, you have to move off the reserve.
The one journalist that was shot dead.
So it's those kind of inequities
in Palestine, I believe it was.
We're looking to rectify.
And
we're not looking for anything,
you know, talk about that, but
other than equitable treatment that any other Albertan, any other Canadian would
unfortunately
receive elsewhere. So, you know, again, in the 1.3 billion. There's going to be a lot of that money is not going to stay on Siksika. As we build stuff, as we build infrastructure, that economic
too
boost
much
is
just
going to go into
came
Alberta.
up.
That economic boost is going to go into the economy. So if anybody understands how multipliers
especially
works,
with
you know,
the Ontario election today,
and the surrounding communities are going to be filled up. The hotels are going to be filled up. This money is not going to stay just on Siksika. It's going to benefit all of Alberta. And as it benefits all of Alberta, it's going to benefit all of Canada. So there's a lot of mutual relationships and a lot of mutual beneficials that can come out of the money. It's not about the money. I've always said this from day one. I'm a finance guy by trade. It's not about the money. It's about the opportunities that can come from the money. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. And again, there's all this money that comes in, a lot of it's going to go out. And where is it going to go out to? It's going to go to Calgary. It's going to go to Lethbridge. It's going to go all over southern Alberta, all over Canada. We have nation members all over Canada and the United States. So it's going to benefit a lot of people, not just going to benefit Siksika. But again, how can we work on those relationships? I can call the Prime Minister a friend. I don't call him an enemy. I told him while he was at Siksika, he was welcome at Siksika. But all politics aside, it's not about parties when you're meeting with Chief and Council. The Chief of Canada is meeting with the Chief of Siksika.
Okay, but like he literally doesn't care about you though.
Next question.
Stephanie Thomas, CTV Calgary. Open question. This is the first large landmark decision. Can we expect to see more decisions like this, and what would Canada look like?
This obviously took an awful lot of work by a whole bunch of people. Minister Miller finished it off, and Minister Bennett had led on it before. The number of negotiators and public servants on our side, the number of hardworking folks on the Siksika side,
Why is this leaking?
making sure that this would move forward, was something that people really leaned in on. I will say that what really began to unlock it was when Canadians elected a government in 2015 that made reconciliation with Indigenous peoples a priority. Canadians told us very clearly that they wanted to see Canada move forward on fixing the broken relationship with Indigenous peoples across this country. And we took that seriously, and that has led to this place. But while we've been working on this one, we've been working on other communities across the country. We've been building distinction-based tables with the Inuit. We've been moving forward on child and family services legislation for Indigenous kids in their communities when they're at risk that have actually articulated in Saskatchewan and other parts of the country. There are lots more things to do, but because it is such a challenging responsibility, and because it is so complex, it is important as well to take
like
time,
everything else when it comes to Indigenous people. It's very, very complex.
Say, this is a good day. This is a good day for Siksika, but it's a good day for Canada as well, because we are recognizing terrible mistakes of the past, working to make them right, and working, most importantly, to build a better future for everyone.
And this follow-up is for you, Mr. Prime Minister. So following the decision to grant BC an exemptions for small drug possession, what conversations are you having with the City of Edmonton about this?
The move we made in regards to BC was something that we've been working on with British Columbia for quite a while now, because we all know that the opioid epidemic has affected communities right across the country, affected families who never thought they might be affected by the tragedy of opioids, overdoses and epidemics, and yet they are. So we've, from the very beginning, put at the center of our approach a data-based, a science-based approach to move drug addictions out of the criminal system and into the health system.
I mean, yeah, like we should be tackling addiction like it's a fucking medical issue and not a criminal issue. Like, it's one of the main reasons on why there's so many like Indigenous people in the prison system as is. Like, unfortunately, a lot of Indigenous people have an addiction problem, you know, mostly because like literally fucking no one cares about Indigenous people outside of like the NDP. But this is a step in the right direction.
You can't talk about moving into the health system if you're not actually working with those who deliver health care. So as we looked at moving forward with BC, we talked very, very carefully with them about what wraparound supports would be there on this important step. How do you make sure the frontline workers are tooled up to support this change? How do you make sure that the healthcare system is ready? How do you make sure police officers and the justice system is ready for this change? How do you make sure that organized crime doesn't make a windfall off of this change? These are all questions we worked on very, very closely with BC, with the City of Vancouver, to have good answers for as we move forward in this important way. And yes, we've heard Edmonton and Toronto are very interested in moving forward as well. And we're going to sit down with them, but it'll be challenging to do.
I mean, like, why wouldn't they though? Like, it makes like total sense for them to be on board. Like, they should 100% be on board. Everyone should be on board with that, right? Because like, not only will this like infect indigenous and black communities as well as minority communities, and it could change like a lot of things when it comes to addiction, right? This is like one of the only good things when it comes to indigenous people that the liberals have actually done.
To be entirely honest, without some support from provincial governments that are obviously in charge of policing and healthcare. But if one wants to take a science-based approach, a health-based approach to the opioid epidemic that we're facing, then this is the kind of thing that people need to take seriously.
Prochaine question, Charlotte. Bonjour, Charlotte Dumoulin de Radio-Canada. Je change un peu de sujet moi aussi. Des avions chinois narguent des pilotes canadiens en Asie-Pacifique en volant quelques mètres seulement au-dessus d'eux. Considérez-vous ce genre de pratique comme un acte d'agression? Est-ce que vous avez eu des discussions avec des hauts dirigeants chinois?
Nous sommes très préoccupés par cette situation. Évidemment, le Canada est en train de jouer un rôle important dans le Pacifique, à interdire et à faire partie d'un travail international pour s'assurer que les sanctions appliquées à la Corée du Nord.
I really wish they'd bring a translator for this for everyone who doesn't speak French. I think it would make a lot of Canadians' lives easier when it comes to that.
Soit respecté, soit suivi. Et donc, on a une présence militaire dans le nord du Pacifique. Que la Chine ait eu ce comportement nous préoccupe énormément et on va certainement avoir des suivis avec nos homologues chinois.
Suivi. Merci. Votre ancien ministre des Finances, Bill Morneau, a eu des mots durs à l'endroit de votre gouvernement dans un discours à Toronto hier soir, en disant notamment que votre gouvernement ne se préoccupe pas assez de la croissance économique. Est-ce que vous acceptez ces critiques?
En 2015, on s'est fait élire avec la promesse d'investir dans la classe moyenne pour créer la croissance économique. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on a fait. On a réduit les impôts pour la classe moyenne en les augmentant pour les mieux nantis. On a amené une allocation canadienne aux enfants qui a sorti des centaines de milliers d'enfants de la pauvreté. Et Bill Morneau faisait partie importante de cette équipe-là. Mais là, quand la pandémie a frappé, il a fallu être là pour nos entreprises. Il a fallu être là pour les Canadiens vulnérables. Il a fallu être là pour soutenir l'économie. Et tout ce qu'on a fait a amené une reprise économique plus forte que beaucoup d'autres de nos pays pairs à cause des investissements qu'on avait faits pour appuyer les gens, pour donner confiance aux Canadiens qu'on allait pouvoir passer à travers ensemble. Et là, avec les hausses du coût de la vie, on continue d'être là pour investir dans les citoyens parce qu'on sait que la meilleure façon d'assurer une économie en santé et croissante, c'est de s'assurer que les Canadiens puissent contribuer, puissent bien vivre et atteindre leur potentiel.
Next question, Adam.
Adam McVicker with Global News in Calgary. My first question, $1.3 billion, how was that number?
Automatic thicker, hell yeah.
It is extremely difficult to quantify the exact loss that if you go back to 1910, to the breaking of treaties signed only a couple decades before.
I mean, but like that still happens though. And like it ultimately doesn't even fucking matter because like we have treaties for say for pipelines, right? Like not going through indigenous land, but we don't give a fuck about them because for one, they're poor, and for two, they're indigenous. Like, of course we're not going to fucking care about them, which is absolutely ridiculous. Considering that oftentimes a lot of those pipelines tend to poison the water supplies of the indigenous communities with and the reserves and everything, and like oh, it's pathetic. Like it's just really aggravating.
A few decades before, by taking away almost half of the territory granted to Siksika Nation. You think of all the growth that could have happened, all the opportunities they would have had. That's why we sat down in very careful and robust negotiations to figure out what would be the right amount to move forward on, to make sure that it was recognizing the terrible harms that Canada caused, the loss of opportunity, the loss of potential, but also make sure that we're able to continue to move forward responsibly. But I'm happy to turn over to Minister Miller, who was certainly deeply involved in these negotiations. Mark?
Yeah, and it isn't an easy question to answer, but an important one. It is often the product of lengthy negotiation and dispute. And let's situate this. This isn't a discussion about ceded or unceded land. This is land that was set aside and then taken away unjustly. There are many claims that are interrelated, but when we go to quantify that type of loss, to the extent that money can replace the loss of land, it becomes a discussion over the unimproved value of the land over the course of time, and then becomes a process of negotiation with the negotiation teams, including Chief and Council, and then put out through a very long ratification community process that can be.
Okay, but like, you should be working with the Indigenous peoples of Canada to solve a lot of the fucking problems that we have when it comes to, say, global warming or agriculture, and how fucking awful that how fucking awful the agriculture industry is. It's just pathetic. Like,
be quite difficult on the community itself, but obviously there's some actuarial basis to it. There's a measuring basis to it, but there's also a negotiation basis to it. So finally, it becomes acceptable to the community in question.
I'm gonna add a little bit on that. You know what? There's a lot of, this was oil-rich lands, but it's not about the lands. If I took your son at 2 years old and bring him back at 25, what value can you put on that?
Yeah,
it's gone.
He's actually right about that. Like, unfortunately, a lot of Indigenous peoples had to put up with that. Like, it's pathetic that they did as well. Like, no one should have to be going through that. Like, for fuck's sakes. It's sick that they did.
Just remember that. And it's not.
And he is right about that. 1.3 billion is a bargain for the Canadian government. Conservatives will cry and say that that's too high. Who fucking cares? But no, like, if that shit happened to like anyone else, like, especially like fucking, say, like white conservatives, they would lose their fucking mind and want those people dead. So understandably, there's a lot of frustration with the Indigenous peoples when it comes to a lot of the shit that the government has done. And they're only now just barely paying reparations for it.
It was about the land. You talk about sheer land value. You talk about mineral value. You talking about oil value. And you talk about loss of ceremonial items and ceremonial grounds we will never get back.
He's right.
It's all of those. And you talk about 112 years. If this was a group of Alberta ranchers, it had been settled in 5.
He's right. He is 100% right about that. If it was Alberta ranchers, especially white Alberta ranchers, it would have been solved, like, I'd say even less than 5 years, to be honest with you. I'd say probably like 2 or 3 at most. Like, it's crazy.
Thank you. I got one more question for you, Prime Minister, on a different topic here. There have been reports that Chinese jets have buzzed and flown within 20 to 150 feet of a Canadian aircraft on a UN mission. The military has called this unsafe and unprofessional. I guess, how serious is this, and is it
Honestly, I wouldn't say it's serious at all. Like, it doesn't really fucking matter. Like, China's literally just doing the same shit that we're doing, so it doesn't matter.
Part of an escalation by China with this?
We obviously take the situation very seriously. Canada is an active part of an important mission in the North Pacific to ensure that the sanctions applied to North Korea are properly enforced.
Okay, but like, why the fuck do we have to sanction North Korea though? Like, if communism is doomed to fall, let it fucking fall. Like, we voted to release the embargoes and sanctions on fucking Cuba. Why can't we do the same shit to fucking North Korea? Like, I get that North Korea has its fucking problems, duh. But like, if it's going to fall, let it fucking fall, right? Like, when was the last time North Korea was actually like a fucking threat? Like, nowhere. And like, the last time like anything like popped off with North Korea is when like fucking Donald Trump was calling Kim Jong-un like a fat toddler, which was kind of funny, not gonna lie.
And the fact that China would have chosen to do this is extremely troubling. So we will be bringing it up directly with Chinese officials and counterparts and ensuring that this doesn't continue to be part of an escalatory pattern.
Next question.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Mr. Prime Minister, hello, my name is Carly Wieselchild, and I work for Siksika Media for the local newspaper. And it's so wonderful having you here today to visit our traditional Blackfoot territory. It's Indigenous History Month, and also we are the second largest reserve here in Canada. So my question for you is, how do you feel personally, as our Prime Minister, to work with Siksika Nation to finalize this historical settlement during your tenure?
My biggest regret today is that I didn't bring one of my kids along to be part of this.
The fuck do your kids have to do with this?
My father, when he was Prime Minister, brought me to a lot of incredible Indigenous communities to meet with leaders, to talk about partnerships.
Oh yeah, well, Pierre Elliott Trudeau did shit when it came to that. So I'm sorry, but your father failed in that regard.
To talk about the way forward. And it always impacted on me what he was doing and the relationships that he was building back then. Of course, from today, we look back at what was happening in the 70s and early 80s, and we know how inadequate it was. But to be able right now to reach not just back to the 70s to fix things that were done then, or to complete things that were started then, but to reach back to try and live up to a treaty signed in 1877, a treaty that was broken in 1910, and say, we were wrong. Canada was wrong in not respecting the treaties that we signed, the agreements, the partnerships
and we still don't
we
do them.
laid out, and we own that. And as the chief said,
all this is just for fucking clout. Like, yes, it is again, it is a step in the right direction, but it still doesn't matter because we're gonna fuck them over either way.
Money can't fix that. But it is a recognition that we were wrong, and it gives us a path now to move forward. And there's lots of things that we are looking forward to working with the Siksika Nation on, whether it's elders, whether it's policing, whether it's whatever priorities they bring forward, because they are the ones who get to choose. They are the ones who get to lead. They are the ones who get to shape the future of their community, and Canada, as is right, will be part of it. But this month of June, which is Indigenous Heritage Month, it's important to underline that what's happening here today isn't just about the government of Canada and Siksika Nation. This is about non-Indigenous Canadians from coast to coast to coast that have to understand that their country and their history includes and is defined by Siksika Nation and Siksika history. That this is something that we need to move forward on together. Because at the same time as residential schools were teaching, or trying to teach, Indigenous kids that there was no value in their language and their culture and identity, every other school in Canada was teaching non-Indigenous kids that there was no value in Indigenous languages, culture, or history. So the work we have to do doesn't just involve a government and a nation. It involves every single Canadian. And being able to be here today to represent all Canadians as we take this important step forward that will hopefully be something that people look back on positively decades from now, a century from now, as a moment where things started to change for real. Well, that is a deep privilege. Mon plus grand regret aujourd'hui, c'est que j'ai pas pu amener un de mes enfants pour venir voir cette annonce aujourd'hui, pour faire partie de cette célébration. Parce que je me souviens très bien d'avoir été avec mon père dans des visites comme ça, un peu partout au pays, où j'ai vu l'importance du travail qu'on fait ensemble, gouvernement et peuple autochtone. En même temps, ce qu'on est en train de faire ici, c'est pas juste une question de faire des arrangements d'il y a quelques années, c'est de reconnaître qu'il y a presque 100 ans, le Canada a fait une erreur monumentale, a manqué de respect, a brisé les liens de confiance avec la nation Siksika. Et aujourd'hui, on reconnaît ça, on essaye de rebâtir cette relation de confiance et on s'engage à continuer pour bâtir un monde meilleur ensemble, dans tout respect, avec le leadership de cette communauté à l'avant-plan de toutes les décisions qu'ils vont vouloir prendre.
Follow-up question. Yes, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to answer my questions.
Thank you.
And my follow-up question is for Chief Ore. This is definitely a huge step forward in a positive direction, and it's a historical day for us, for Siksika, for the people. So what message do you have for our nation members for today?
We've been talking about initiatives and change, and to get real change, you have to be change. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that this team has worked on, my council team, is being the change. You know, not sitting around talking about it, but showing results. And a lot of these, it wasn't just residential school, but a lot of the things that happened in residential school, they made our people ashamed to be First Nation, ashamed to speak the language, ashamed of where they're from. And that's some of the things that we're trying to show our people.
And oftentimes, like, it still is, like, shamed, though. Like, even non-Indigenous people have to deal with this as well. Like, fucking immigrants as well have to deal with this. Refugees have to deal with this. Like, it's pathetic. If you don't fall underneath the status quo of being, like, a fucking, like, white nationalist or some shit, like, you're going to be scrutinized. Or at least even, like, fucking a little bit liberal, too. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, if you're not fucking racist towards anyone, you're gonna be scrutinized the fuck out of it.
And all these different, there's a lot of things going on. You know, we just brought Chief Crowfoot's regalia back. There's a lot of items that we're bringing back. We're putting up our signage in Blackfoot around the reserve.
Nice.
You know, we're working on a lot of different initiatives. We want our people to be proud of who they are. When they hold their head up, they want them to say, I'm from Siksika. And so, you know, but to make real change, you have to be the change. And that's what I think our team here at the Siksika Council, we're being the change. You know, and so, and that's the relationships that we're working with Canada as well as the provincial government, is to work on more initiatives to be the change. It's easy to talk all these things of what you're going to do as a politician, but we want to be able to, every nation member should be able to look around and see a visible difference at Siksika. And that's what we want. We want to see less boarded up homes. We want to see less garbage on the road. We want our people to be proud of our community. And that was the main thing about coming down here. You know, we could have easily just signed it in there. But it was significant that it took place at the same place that 145 years ago, a lot of our ancestors were down here and negotiating that treaty, the Blackfoot Treaty of 1877. So it's renewing that treaty. We had a pipe ceremony today. And then that pipe ceremony is more important than that signing. And it's those promises that we make from Siksika to the Canada, a nation-to-nation agreement to work forward to be that change. And those are the things I look forward to as we continue this relationship, continue this partnership. And we want our people to see that. That's why we want to start having more and more and more of these events so our people can walk around and be proud to be from Siksika. And other First Nations will say, boy, look what Siksika's doing. And I want them to be proud of whatever First Nation they're from. I want them to be proud. We got to in the government of Canada, it did have systemic racist propaganda strategies.
And like it still does though. Like nothing has changed. It's just like you're unfortunately you're only gonna the Siksika people are just going to be used for more propaganda, more whitewashing, and it's going to be really frustrating because like they have hope right now, but that hope will inevitably be taken away.
The whole residential school was to kill the Indian and save the child, kill the Indian. They made our ways outlawed. You know, to have these. That's why these bundles are in England and these bundles are in Germany and these.
And like when it comes to like the residential schools, like the residential schools and like the way that the indigenous peoples were beforehand, they were quite literally more fucking progressive than we are today. Like it is unironically true.
Sacred items are all over, spread all over. Now these items are coming back. Now these items are coming back. And we talk about a $1.3 billion, again, that's a bargain deal. And it's not about the money, it's about the opportunities that can come from those monies. And I think it's now we're getting out of the time where we're surviving and we're getting into the next generation of thriving. And I look forward to us moving forward and being the change here in Alberta, here in southern Alberta. And then again, I strongly believe that the way southern Alberta goes is the way Alberta goes, and the way Alberta goes a lot of ways, that's the way Canada goes. So we are the heart of the change agent right here at Siksika. So it makes me proud when I see our elders that have seen so much for the last, my great aunt Christine Big Snake was down here. She's in her mid-80s. And I have photos from her from in the 30s when Prince Charles came. Or, Prince was it? Anyway, nonetheless.
Prince Charles.
Those same elders that were there then are there now. And to see this come to fruition, they never thought it was really going to come to fruition. And it's been far too long, 112 years since the wrongdoing took place. So again, it's not making it right. We'll never make it right. But it's, you know what, let's acknowledge it that a wrong happened. Let's move forward and let's make these partnerships that can create a better Siksika, a better Alberta, a better Canada. Done.
Next question, please. Thank you.
I wonder how long it's gonna take before they fuck over the Siksika people again. I give it like, I don't know, 3 years.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. John Watson from the Strathmore Times. Ori Crowfoot has said that Chief and his council have a lot of ideas.
I love how he uses real expressions to actually prove his point. I mean, well, yeah, like he's been spot on about like a lot of the things that he said so far, though. Like he he has been correct on like all of his assessments, and like unfortunately, like I don't think this $1.3 billion settlement claim is actually going to solve anything. The way that we actually have to solve the problem that a lot of the, not just the Siksika people have, but like Canadians and or Indigenous and other Canadians alike have, which is the systemic problems that our country faces.
Including policing, education, and language studies. In your initial talks with Chief and Council, is Canada interested in being a significant part of developing those programs?
Yes and no. We are interested in being there as a resource to allow them to develop the programs and the path forward. But the less Ottawa has to say in how they actually get built, set up, and run, the better. It needs to be something that is driven by the Siksika Nation. It has to suit them. We are there as partners with experience, and we can make sure that the resources are there. But no matter how right the solution might be, if it comes from Ottawa...
You also kind of missed it. We did the... we covered the Ontario election. Unfortunately, Doug Ford won again. Ontarians deserve way better than fucking Doug Ford. They deserve the... they deserve the NDP, but unfortunately they became the incumbent, or the opposition, I should say. So they have to put up with Doug Ford for another 4 years. And like, he's not even the good Ford. He's not fucking Rob. Rob Ford was fucking dope.
But it can't be the right solution. It needs to be informed by and led by the community itself, and that's our focus. But all those priorities are ones that we spoke about and that we look forward to
yeah, it's very unfortunate. Like, I honestly thought that, you know, considering the fact that Doug Ford just completely fucking bombed the Ontario's leaders debate, I honestly thought he was gonna lose. And like, considering that he actually made the Liberals look good, which is very hard to do, I thought for sure he would have lost. And like, the NDP or the Liberals would have gotten at least a minority. But unfortunately, I think it's due to low voter turnout that the PCs won again.
working with them on. So that
and I'm also having like a back and forth on Twitter with some random guy who's like getting pissy at me. It's really funny.
We can move forward as a partnership.
And for Chief Crowfoot, is there a timeline whatsoever on when we can expect to see some initial planning stages on when these programs might start?
ASAP. I mean, honestly, like, we've already had a lot of things into work. This is not the first thing.
I found a hog. Oh, of course. You literally just have to check my my tweets and replies.
The last thing, our federal transfer, our new funding arrangement. There's different tables that we're setting up as we speak. Repatriation, there's more tables that we're setting.
And you should have been here last week as well. Like, the French conservative leadership debate was fucking awesome. The only thing, like, they were confusing, or they were accusing each other of not wanting to privatize healthcare, essentially, and it was the funniest shit. Oh man, Chat and I had a blast last week.
So, we're not sitting back waiting. Our people, we hunted the buffalo. We were hunters. We went out and hunt. That's what this council's doing. We're going out and hunting. We're going out and setting those tables up. We're not waiting for Ottawa to come to us. Now, but I will say that partnerships with people like Minister Miller, they have been very productive. So, even though we went out and hunt, he's helped us out along that way. So it's those mutual benefits.
Oh, it absolutely was. It was the funniest shit. Chat and I were just having fun with it as well. It was essentially like the same as the regular debate, like in English, that happened in Edmonton, I believe it was. but it was even more wild. I will say though, like, Quebec hogs are very fucking polite compared to like everywhere else.
Official partnerships, anytime you have a one-sided partnership, it's not going to last long. Canada's got a benefit, Siksika's got a benefit. Alberta.
I mean, unfortunately, Siksika won't benefit though. Though most likely, if there's a way for fucking companies to profit off of, say, oil, for example, they're gonna run it through the limited land you were given. So it ultimately doesn't matter.
Everybody's got a benefit. Everybody's got a benefit, and if you have those mutual beneficial partnerships, you're going to have growth and you're going to have success.
Thank you very much.
And we'll take the last question, Carolyn. Prime Minister, I'm sorry, I'm going to be asking a question in English that you've already answered in French, but your former Finance Minister, Bill Morneau, has said that your government spent a lot of time on wealth distribution,
I gotta pee.
but not so much time on growing prosperity and working on competitiveness. Did he bring that up when he was in your government? And what is your government doing about those issues?
When we got elected in 2015, we made a commitment to grow the middle class and help people working hard to join it. And that's exactly what we did. First thing we did was lower taxes for the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1%. We then delivered a Canada Child benefit that lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty. And we continued to move forward in a way that ensured that Canadians were at the center of the growth we were creating. Bill was a huge part of that and an important member of the team. Then when the pandemic hit, we had to shift gears. We had to be there to support small businesses, to support families, to support seniors, to support young people. And we did that not just because it was going to be the best way through the pandemic, but it was the best way of ensuring that our economy would come back as quickly and as strongly as possible. And that's exactly what it did. We have now recovered about 115% of the jobs we lost in the pandemic. The US has only recovered about 95% of the jobs they lost since February of 2020.
Why is he sucking himself off?
But even as we're seeing growth pick up once again, we need to make sure we're continuing to be there to support families. Right now, that means supporting them with the cost of living, supporting them with the high prices of gas and groceries. Well, what we did on childcare, what we signed last year, right across the country, but here in Alberta, the average family with young kids is going to save about $5,000 this year in childcare fees. That significantly helps with affordability, with the cost of groceries, while at the same time not contributing towards greater inflation. These are the kinds of solutions that move forward. The Canada Child benefit, it's indexed to the cost of living. It's indexed to inflation, so it's going to be going up to make sure that families can continue to buy groceries and gas and things that they need for their kids. These are the kinds of things that we've done, and we know that through supporting Canadians, through making sure that everyone has a real and fair chance to succeed, that's how you create the best growth.
Thank you. If there's no follow-up question, that concludes today's press conference.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, real quick, I want to go over this, like how gun control actually works in Canada and the US. So yeah, well, I'll just pull up TikTok here. This guy, where is he? Here he is. He actually does a fairly good job on covering how gun regulations and shit actually happens in Canada. So he has two parts, and we'll watch them both.
Regulate guns in Canada versus the United States. This week,
sucks. And aside from my own personal life being pretty chaotic right now with my breakup and everything, the reason why I haven't said anything about the shootings is because I don't know what to add. One more tired voice is one more tired voice. I can at least give you a frame of reference, so let's talk about the difference in regulation of these very dangerous
I believe this came out like right after the Uvalde incident, right? No, it was 4 days ago, never mind. Yeah, because I did coverage of it last week. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about the regulations and shit that we have here, how it works and everything. So yeah.
Between our two countries. And spoiler alert, it's going to take me more than one video to describe all the differences in regulation.
I really like his content, by the way.
Regulation is a lot easier here because while we do have a right to self-defense, there is no right to bear arms. In fact, property isn't even directly protected in our charter. Firearms in Canada are federally regulated, most directly by the Firearms Act, and basically everyone in Canada, minus a few differences between provinces, follows the same rules. But let me walk you through the process, step by step, of buying a gun in Canada. You want a gun. Maybe you're a hobbyist, maybe you're an Indigenous hunter, maybe someone shot your dog and you're out for vengeance. First,
I think the only provinces that have a little bit of a different thing when it comes to guns would be Ontario and I think Alberta.
You need to take and pass this government safety course taught by government certified instructors. You'll need to take at least one to carry non-restricted firearms and another if you want to carry restricted ones. I'll explain that in a moment. These courses are usually about a day long and they cover such topics as basic firearm training, safety practices, storage of ammunition, etc. So you've passed your course. Now you need a Possession and Acquisition PAL license which authorizes you to purchase and hold a firearm in Canada. Now up here, firearms are split into three categories: prohibited, restricted, and non-restricted. Prohibited weapons are the highest restricted and you can basically only own them if you got them like decades ago before these laws came into effect. It includes sawed-off weapons, all automatic weapons, and some small handguns. Restricted firearms you'll need a separate license from the PAL license for and covers any handgun that isn't prohibited, the AR-15, and most semi-automatic rifles. And non-restricted, the only type of weapon this license allows you to own, covers literally everything else. Now you can fill out this form which requires giving out your basic information, address, criminal history, if any, whether you have a current or...
And like, if you have any criminal history, chances are you're gonna be flagged and not be able to get some guns. So no yeehaw, bang bang for, I don't know, the whack job that wants to, I don't know, kill his spouse with his gun bed or something.
or former spouse you've recently separated from. Yes, that is for the exact reason that you're thinking. Confirmation of your safety certification, and 2 references that can speak to your character. The RCMP, Canada's FBI, then calls up your references, checks you out, does background checks, and imposes a mandatory 28-day waiting period. On average, it takes between 2 and 3 months to obtain a new firearms license.
Could you imagine being a fucking American hog with Canada's gun regulations and being like pissed that you have to wait for like 28 days to get a new firearm or a new firearm license? Like, it's kind of crazy to me though, because like America has more regulations when it comes to driving a vehicle than it does for guns. It's wild.
Since the RCMP will free...
I'd probably fail the background check. Too much weed. Not necessarily. It's very complicated when it comes to firearms, but like most times, like honestly, like yeah, shooting guns is fun and everything, right? But I just don't really see a point to having a firearms license. Like there's really no need for it, in my opinion.
Frequently deny people if you fail their checks. Now, once you have your license, there's a whole list of rules you have to abide by on the transfer, sale, and use of your firearm, and I will go...
Yeah, plus, like, there's also a shit ton of rules that you have to follow as well, and if you break any rules, you're suspended for, I think it's like 4 or 5 years for, like, some weapons, and you're not allowed to have, like, anything else or for the rest of your life. It's nuts.
Go into that in the next video
and
because I only have 45 seconds left.
Good.
All right, I'm going to tell you how we regulate guns in Canada versus the United States. This week, sucks. And aside from my own personal life being pretty chaotic right now with my breakup and everything, the reason why I haven't said anything about the shootings is because I don't know what to add. One more tired voice is one more tired voice. I can at least give you a frame of reference, so let's talk about the difference in
Okay, so that was part 1, and this is part 2.
Continuing from my last video, here's how easy it is to get a gun in Canada versus the United States and what you can do with it. So you, good all-Canadian citizen that you are, have gone through the process I described last time of permitting, training, and going through background checks, and now you have a license to hold and carry a firearm. What can you do with it? Once you have your license, you'll need to buy a weapon, and there's a whole lot of rules to follow here. First, you'll only be able to transfer your firearm to anyone holding one of these licenses. If it's a non-restricted firearm, like most are, you will not have to register it, but prohibited and restricted firearms do have to be registered. The process of transferring a firearm generally involves...
And if you like scratch the serial number off, for example, there's a very good chance that you are not going to be able to have another gun.
A reference number, and both the buyer and the seller verifying their license numbers to make sure that they are who they say they are. They also have to make sure that the buyer isn't dangerously mentally ill, intoxicated, or drunk, by the way, as long as we're talking about guns and mental health. This is a pretty common sense thing, wouldn't you say? And as said, if you're transferring restricted or prohibited firearms, then the Canadian Firearms Program will reach out to both the buyer and the seller for an additional level of verification on top of having to register the weapon. So you finally have your weapon for what I have to assume is a legitimate purpose. What can you do with it? The answer is not much. First, you'll be required to store it in a locked location, unloaded, and separately from its ammunition, which also has to be in a locked container. If you can't lock it up, you have to render it inoperable by some other means. Note that there are...
Like putting a lock through the barrel, for example, and having that key, say, on your person or somewhere else that you, like in like a lockbox or something. So...
There are exceptions to this rule if you need the weapon to defend yourself against predators like polar bears and Canada geese and Schitt's Creek fans. Second, you'll only be authorized to carry that weapon at your home, at a shooting range, or another government-authorized location like a gun club. Note that both open and concealed carry are illegal in Canada unless you hold an authorization to carry ATC license, which is basically only granted to people like security guards, wildlife protection officers, me when I'm trying to defend myself against Schitt's Creek fans. Also, if the firearm you're using is restricted or prohibited, you'll have to tell the government that you're moving and using it and provide a good and sufficient reason, which is a very short list of reasons. Third, you won't be able to load and discharge your firearm at anywhere other than an authorized location. Fourth, you're not allowed to modify it by tampering with the serial number or by making it into an automatic weapon unless you want to, you know, do a crime. 5, you're not going to be firing it for very long, given that the limit on most magazine sizes is 10 for handguns and 5 for most rifles. 6, if you're stupid enough to commit a crime under Section 109 of the Criminal Code, most of them involve violence, the judge must order that your weapons be confiscated. For 10 years, you won't be able to own any non-restricted firearms, and for the rest of your life, you can't hold any prohibited or restricted ones. Peace officers can also ask that this order be imposed before you're convicted if they're convinced that you having a gun is, you know, a bad idea. Finally, if God created your brain on opposite day and you're stupid enough to lose your weapon, or if you find it again, you have to notify the government. There are many exceptions to all of these rules, but that's a pretty decent snapshot.
Not the geese. Fuck the geese. The geese are assholes, man.
At almost every level of this system, some government, some not, checking where the weapon is, why you have it, and if it's in the best interest of society for you to continue to have it. And despite that over 20% of Canadian households own guns, our per capita death rate from them is 6 times less than the United States. Just saying. Alright, continuing from my last video, here's how easy it is to get a gun in Canada versus the United States and what you can do with it. So you, good all-Canadian citizen that you are, have gone through the process I described last time of permitting, training, and going through background checks, and now you have a license to hold and carry a firearm. What can you do with it? Once you have your license, you'll need to buy a...
You can literally only, like, shoot it on, like, private land, or, like, personal land, I should say, at a gun range, or... like for hunting purposes. That's really all you can do.
Weapon, and there's a whole lot of rules to follow.
Oh wait, he probably already covered that, but yeah, it's kind of crazy, eh? Okay, let's talk about Bill C-11 now. So Bill C-11 is quite interesting. So I think it's here. For context, this guy is a popular Canadian commentator. So there are some aspects I agree with him on, some aspects I don't. The Bill C-11, I don't actually agree with him on, but let's watch. Let's take a look at what this is going to be like. Yeah, true.
Hello, friends. My name is JJ McCullough, and I am a professional YouTuber from New Westminster, BC. Today, I hope to...
When someone comes in and says that they're a professional YouTuber, that should automatically be a red flag. Like, I'm sorry, but like, yeah, it's yeah, it's a red flag. I'm sorry.
Teach the committee about Canada's vast YouTuber community and why so many of us fear Bill C-11, a bill we did not ask for, do not need, and threatens the success
It's a self-report.
we've already
True.
achieved. My channel's subject matter is mostly cultural analysis with a focus on Canadian identity. My video topics have ranged from a biography of Wilfrid Laurier to the history of potato chips to why different political parties use different colors. My most popular video is about a Dairy Queen in my community, which has been viewed over 8 million times. Professional YouTubers like me earn a living from in-video advertisements, with ad revenue generally correlating with the popularity of our videos. A YouTuber's subscriber count can offer a very rough estimate of their channel's potential audience size. My channel recently passed 750,000 subscribers. In total, my...
Bro, that's it? Fucking XQC is more popular than you. Imagine, like, losing to XQC and been doing it longer than he has.
Videos have been viewed 230 million times. Now, these numbers might sound impressive, but I am actually one of this country's mid-level YouTubers at best. According to socialblade.com, I am merely the 414th most popular Canadian YouTuber. Indeed, according to Social Blade, there are over 100 Canadian YouTubers with over 3.5 million subscribers and over 1 billion video views. But popularity at this level isn't necessary for success. My friend Joe Lee is a professional Canadian YouTuber.
Imagine caring about the numbers and not the love of the craft. I mean, true. Like, but like at a certain point, like you actually do have to consider your numbers, especially if you're wanting to make a living off of it.
Who makes videos about life in Vancouver and was recently able to...
But yeah, numbers also, like when it comes to like making money off of it, numbers isn't the only thing, because YouTube pays like ass, but like, you know, there are sponsorships and brand deals and everything as well, so that's another way that people make money.
Lay the popularity of his channel into his own clothing line. He has just 156,000 subscribers and 12 million views, making him the 945th most popular Canadian YouTuber. This should hopefully offer a sense of the size of the YouTuber community as a faction of the Canadian cultural economy. The tremendous success and even worldwide fame of many Canadian YouTubers in the absence of government regulation should invite questions about the necessity of Bill C-11. An unregulated YouTube has been a 17-year experiment, and the result has been an explosion of popular Canadian content produced by Canadians of every imaginable demographic. Now, much of the debate around Bill C-11 has centered on so-called user-generated content, which is often implied to mean frivolous social media posts. But Section 4.2 states that government is interested in regulating content that, quote, generates revenues, which describes the sort of videos professional YouTubers create. Regardless, it is important to understand that it is simply impossible to regulate a platform like YouTube without also regulating...
Okay, but like if enough countries actually have laws and shit put in place, you know, companies like YouTube can't run around promoting like right-wing propaganda and shit like that, and have people fall down the right-wing pipeline like I did.
Regulating creator content. It's like promising not to regulate books while regulating what can be sold in bookstores. Hence, Section 7 of this bill states that online platforms must, quote, clearly promote and recommend Canadian programming. But what is Canadian programming? We know from the precedent of television that merely having a work produced by a Canadian is not good enough for the CRTC. The nationality of basically everyone involved, from editors to musicians to visual effects artists, must be factored in too. A detailed budget is expected, and the project's theme and subject matter must be explained. The CRTC website features countless forms TV producers must fill out in order to get their work certified as officially Canadian and thus worthy of promotion on Canada's heavily regulated airwaves. Most Canadian YouTubers...
But, like, they're not even regulated, though. They'd be forced to change? Oh, no. Poor company. Poor company has to change. White people said.
...shudder at the thought that this could soon be our fate as well. Given the broad powers of the CRTC, which Bill C-11 expands to include digital platforms, the Canadian YouTuber community is right to worry that the continued success of their channels could soon be dependent on their ability to make content that's Canadian enough to obtain government endorsement. Even more ominously, Section 9 of this bill says the CRTC can dictate, quote, the proportion of programs to be broadcast that shall be devoted to specific genres on digital platforms. Given that YouTubers make videos of every genre imaginable, from fitness to architecture to political commentary, it is frankly terrifying to imagine that government may soon have a hand in determining which genres of video are more worthy of promotion than others. In summary, anyone proud of the tremendous success of Canadians on YouTube should be deeply concerned about the damage Bill C-11 could do to their livelihoods. I also worry that the dreams of the next...
I mean, like, okay, but, you know, I'll use the fucking conservative talking point. Get a real job, sweaty. Like, that's the conservative talking point. For context, he is conservative, so... Yeah. But no, it's honestly, I don't think this bill's really gonna affect much. Like, I actually read through the entire fucking bill and it was boring as hell. But a lot of this stuff, like, I don't even think will affect him. Like, it's mostly just there to promote more like indigenous and like black and marginalized communities when it comes to online spaces. What was it supposed to do? What's supposed to do? Bill C-11?
Next generation of Canadian YouTubers will become less achievable once they're forced to navigate intimidating new regulatory hurdles my generation did not. But most of all, I fear the damage that will be done to Canada's legacy as a global leader of cultural entrepreneurship once our online creators are forced to make narrowly nationalistic content under duress in order to win the favor of a government in denial of what we've accomplished on our own. Thank you.
I was actually kind of disappointed by that. Yeah, so Bill C-11 is here. This is the first reading. The summary is this: at online undertakings, the transmission or retransmission of programs over the internet as distinct class of broadcasting undertakings specify that the Act does not apply to respect to programs uploaded to an online undertaking that provides social media services by the user of the service unless the program is prescribed by regulation. So I honestly don't think it's going to affect him, okay? Update the broadcasting policy for Canada's Section 3 by the Act by, among other things, providing the Canadian broadcasting system would, Section C-1, serve the need and interest of all Canadians, including Canadians from racialized communities and Canadians of diverse ethno-cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, abilities and disabilities, sexual orientations, gender identities and expressions, and ages, and C2 provide opportunities to Indigenous persons, programming that reflect Indigenous cultures and that is in Indigenous language, and programming that is accessible without barriers if the persons with disabilities. Section D, enhance the validity of English and French linguistic minority communities in Canada and foster full recognition and use of both English and French in Canadian society, including by support of production and broadcasting of the original programs in both languages. Which I can get that this would be kind of annoying, to be honest with you, but like there are ways around that. Section E, specify that the Canadian Radio and Television and Telecoms Commissions, the commissions, must regulate and supervise the Canadian broadcasting system in a manner that, one, takes into account different characteristics of English, French, and Indigenous languages broadcasting, and different conditions under which broadcasting that provides English, French, and Indigenous programs to operate. 2, takes into account, among other things, natural diversity services by providing undertakings. 3, ensures that any broadcasting undertaking cannot be make maximum or predominant use of Canadian creative and other human resources in creation, production, and presentation of programming contributes to those Canadian resources in equivalent manner. Yeah, so this is fairly boring stuff, all things considered. It's all posted online. It's really fucking boring, but yeah, it's, for the most part, it's not going to, like, yeah, I know, that's why I don't want to stick on this for too terribly long. But it is what it is. Like, to be honest, I would be surprised if this actually passes. It does have support by both the Liberals and the NDP. Like, the only people that I actually hear complaining about this is Conservatives. So, yeah, it's, I think I covered this on stream before, like, when it was first initially, like, announced and shit, but yeah, it's super boring. Essentially what the bill wants to do is, like, regulate more, or do more regulation when it comes to online spaces, say like YouTube or other streaming services or video uploading services like that, as well as making Indigenous and other marginalized communities more, like, predominant when it comes to, say, like, Canadian YouTube, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because those communities are super, like, marginalized and, like, are very, very they're like non-existent on YouTube. Like, you actually have to look for them, and it's kind of pathetic. Like, it just goes to show that, like, the white supremacist attitude that a lot of online spaces have. It's crazy. Yeah, it's goes into like a bunch of other stuff. Control, barrier, affiliate. So yeah, it is what it is.
Thousands of Canadians
what's this?
collected CERB benefits to survive the pandemic. Now thousands are receiving notices from the federal government telling them they have to pay back some of that money.
Oh yeah, this is kind of ridiculous, by the way. Like, I don't know if anyone's heard about this, but like, yeah, no, you have to pay back CERB, and it's provided it's not like over like a certain threshold, because once it's over a certain threshold, you don't have to pay it back, which is really idiotic. Like, no, it was given to Canadians because they needed money in order to continue the economy going. So I don't think that they should have to pay it back because they lost their jobs due to an unprecedented virus.
It's a financial blow 2 years after they got the help and paid taxes on it. Kevin Green explains.
Like hundreds of thousands of Canadians, Greg Bates got a CERB payment back in 2020, an initial $2,000 that was rushed out the gates into Canadians' pockets at the beginning of the pandemic. Last week, he got an email from Revenue Canada saying they're going to be asking for it back.
They're throwing this at you 2 years later when you're sitting there going, well, I haven't gotten anything to this point, so I don't need to worry about it. I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm covered.
And like, unfortunately, what's going to happen is like a lot of like poor communities, a lot of Indigenous communities, a lot of marginalized communities are going to suffer a lot from this. Because, like, let's be real, everyone was affected by COVID, right? A lot of people were out of work because they were classified as non-essential jobs. And they just were just fucked over. Like, I'm sorry, like,
now clearly I'm not covered. So it's a shock. It's a bit of a gut punch.
Bates says he can absorb the hit, but a lot of Canadians won't be able to, according to insolvency trustees Bromwich and Smith.
You did what you needed to do at that time in that emergency. Great. Now, this is kind of another emergency for some people who have received that letter.
We asked the CRA why these notices were being sent now, and in a written statement it said, the notices of redetermination are being sent to individuals who received the payment but were later determined to be ineligible for one or more benefits periods received. But some of the people getting the notices actually did qualify, but didn't follow through on the paperwork, according to accountant Doug Gablehouse.
People should not be asked for this money back. It's only $2,000. And then further, if they were eligible, then they should start filing some of their paperwork and take it back as far as they can.
As for Greg Bates, he got the notice of determination warning him he owes money, but still hasn't received the notice of debt telling him just how much.
The Canadian government talks about we have your back.
Wait, what did it say?
Received the notice of debt telling him just how much.
We are writing to you about your CERB. The CERB has been extended by 8 weeks. Maximum of amount payable is now $12,000. I can't really read the rest of it because it's cut off. 24 weeks. Each equates to $2,000 a month for 6 months. What the fuck? Bro, like, some people actually make less than this or just this and are like barely surviving. How the hell do they expect people to, you know, actually pay all this back within 6 months? That's just fucking crazy. When you first of all applied to serve, you received 2 payments, $2,000, as well as the following. Your initial report is $2,000, blah blah blah. Like, this is crazy, right? Like, no one who actually, you know, got benefits from CERB should have to pay it back. Like, especially if they're fucking poor.
The Canadian government talks about we have your back. Well, sending a notice 2 years later saying we want money means that they don't necessarily have your back in that way.
Kevin's here now. So, Kevin, what if you get one of these notices? What should you do?
Well, Jocelyn, the first thing is don't ignore it. It's not one of those scam emails that we've been getting over the years. This thing's for real. If you think you actually did qualify for CERB back in 2020 and you are getting one of these, you should go to the CERB, to the government website, the CRA website, and get the appropriate paperwork and fill it out. The accountant that I spoke to, Mr. Gablehouse, said one of his clients did that, and now it turns out that instead of owing the government thousands of dollars, she's actually going to be getting back thousands more dollars. Secondly, if this unexpected bill is coming your
This is how you kill your citizens' trust. I mean, the fucking liberals have been doing that for years, though. And the only reason why they're still in power is because NDP voters engage in tactical voting because they see how dogshit the conservatives are and don't want another fucking conservative government. And like, like Justin Trudeau just fucking sucks. The only reason why there's two reasons on why he was elected. For the legalization of cannabis and because he's a pretty boy. That's it. Those are the only two reasons why he was elected. Like, literally, if any other liberal was in office outside of Trudeau, they would probably win another majority government.
Your way, and it's a hardship. The CRA says it knows that a lot of people are going to be hit hard by this, and it says they are willing to set up payment arrangements. So contact the CRA, try and work something out. And thirdly, if this is really hitting you super hard, the only people that can help you get debt relief from the CRA is a licensed insolvency trustee. So you might want to have to contact one of them in the
I wonder how much that's going to cost, though.
Worst case scenario.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
What's this? Oh, yeah, Bill 96.
We haven't had the consultation required to have a full understanding of some of the requirements that are in the bill.
Now that Quebec's Bill 96, the reform on French language laws, is officially in effect, leaders of English colleges known as cégeps in Montreal say they're left in the dark about how to apply the sweeping changes. The colleges are supposed to implement more courses in French for all students, 3 if it's their core courses, or 5 if they are second language courses. At Vanier College, the Director General says a lot of questions remain.
It's not clear in terms of whether certain courses that make up existing programs, whether those will now become optional in order to make room for the additional requirements of Bill 96, whether more time will be added to programs, whether there will be funding for those additional programs.
There's also concerns now that Francophone students will have to pass a French exit exam to graduate and will need to take French literature courses in order to do so.
Who is going to teach these courses? There's already a shortage, a significant shortage in terms of French second language teachers at the regular school level, the elementary and secondary level. And so to increase the demand for those kind of teachers at the CEGEP level will be a stressor that we will have to try and deal with.
Another stressor, capped enrollment. Bill 96 will limit the number of Francophones and allophones that can enroll in the English system. The government saying it's to promote the French system to keep the language going strong.
We are not to blame for any so-called decline in French. And, you know, to target English colleges in this manner was completely inappropriate.
These changes.
Yeah, like, it's so stupid. Like, Bill 96 is so idiotic. Like, you're gonna have other people that speak other languages. Like, you shouldn't have to force this on them. It's so, like, Quebec is a little bit progressive when it comes, like, I know I'm going to say something that pisses a lot of people off, especially Quebecers, but Quebec is progressive when it comes, a little bit more progressive than the rest of Canada when it comes to some economic issues, But when it comes to a lot of the when it comes to a lot of like the social issues, they are like extremely right wing on it. Wouldn't that stop people from immigrating there? Yes and no. Because when you immigrate to Canada, you are required to know either English or French before you're allowed to immigrate. And the fact that Quebec is putting this on is just killing diversity. That's all it's doing. Because Quebec is still a very, very conservative state in some regards. In others, not so much. Because, you know, they used to be like very, very fucking Catholic. I think it would stop people who speak like English or any other language to immigrate there, as well as like Quebec is very Islamophobic as well, so it's going to stop people from the Middle East from immigrating there as well. So that's just how it is.
Are supposed to come into effect by 2024.
We had requested the implementation date be pushed to 2025 to give sufficient time to work out all of those details, including opening up that règlement in terms of opening up collective agreements, dealing with faculty and the implications and the impact it will have on their working conditions. But those requests and those recommendations have fallen on deaf ears, as have a lot of other recommendations that we have made as part of this process.
A process which McMahon says he wishes college reps would have been a part of.
They have understandably been reluctant to get involved in those kinds of discussions up until now because it was very much a political process that was driving the agenda. But now where we are both faced, the colleges and the ministry, with meeting the requirements of this bill, we need to sit down, roll up our sleeves, and have some fierce council discussions.
Leaders of English CEGEPs are expected to meet with Quebec government representatives on Monday, June 6th, in hopes to get some clarity.
Now we're left with having to work out the details, and working out those details will not be an easy process.
In Montreal, Alicia Rubertucci, City News.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone else in chat saw this. Some probably already did, but they clipped Ethan Klein from H3H3 out of context about like how like Republicans are okay with like children dying by mass, right? And they clipped him out of context when he was saying like, you know, they should like bomb the NRA and stuff, and then immediately rolled it back like, no, you shouldn't do that, because you shouldn't do that, right? And where is it? I want to find the tweet. Here, this is the tweet. He had posted this, which I found was really funny. Conservatives got so triggered over jokes I told, and mass reported me, got banned for a week, and the episode was removed. If anyone just cared about dead kids as much as they do jokes. So I'm sorry. So I want to say sorry. Sorry, you all are such pathetic snowflakes. Fuck the internet. Fuck habits. Oh, it was so funny. Oh man. Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, I don't really think there's too much left to do. Like, red flag, Right. Yeah, I can English today. Red flag laws are good because there's a new bill being proposed that we covered earlier, and fucking Candace Bergen was whining about it like a bitch, like how she is. Like it's really annoying. But yeah, no, like the red flag laws are good. Like if someone wants to, you know, like shoot up like a school or get something like that, it's good that doesn't happen and shit. So yeah. I don't really think there's anything else here that we can do. I do want to watch more Marketplace eventually. I was planning on watching more or having more fun this week, but shit kind of popped off and I completely forgot that the Ontario election was tonight. So I kind of wanted to watch and cover that, as well as, you know, just cover the indigenous stuff that had happened as well, with the settlement of the 1.3 billion, which isn't gonna bring back their fucking culture or their language or and anything else like that. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm probably gonna be logging off soon anyways. So yep, I'll see you tomorrow.